Welcome to our 152nd weekly webcast. Now, the way this weekly call works is I first discuss 7 topics that can quickly enhance your career or make you a much better investor. Then what I do is I spend the rest of the 3-hour call taking your questions. And I also want to invite you all to a special web class event tomorrow on Friday, September 10th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And during this webcast, I'm going to be giving you a free lesson to help you become more successful in your career and also how to massively increase your net worth. Now, I'll show you how to register in a second for tomorrow's event. But at that event on September 10th, tomorrow at 11 a.m., it's going to be similar actually to how I teach my classes in the Haroun MBA program. So if you ever wondered what it would be like to be part of the Haroun MBA degree program, please register and check it out. I humbly believe that access to the right education is invaluable and should be affordable and accessible to everybody. I can't wait to see you there. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun, I promise you. All right, to register, what you should do is you go to my website, which is harounventures.com. And then when you're on my website, you can click right here on either the date or here the URL to register. And so you go here, you can sign up, register. I'll be giving away a free course as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, I promise you. All right, cool. So if you're getting value out of this weekly call, and only if you're getting value, please like, share, and subscribe. So let's move on to the news and general topics that will help you to take your career or investment portfolio to the next level. Now, I'm going to talk about 7 quick topics today, including 5 ways to get more meetings with customers or potential employers, okay? And this is great for informational meetings because I think that just applying to jobs that are listed online is really, really tough because every time you see an online job opening, thousands of other people apply. There is a better way, and I'm going to teach you 5 ways to get informational meetings. What I'll also talk about, one of the other 7 topics, is why paying very close attention to when stocks get added to the S&P 500 is crucial. It can make you a lot of money. You know, for example, Tesla is up close to 90% since they were added to the S&P 500 last November. All right, let's do this. Let's move on to the news. Here are 5 creative ways to get more meetings in order to sell your product or service or to get a job. So the first way is use the mail. Okay, not many people do this. So send an item and a handwritten letter, which nobody does anymore, and it's a really nice touch. And be creative about it too and have fun with it. You know, for example, I went to a Tony Robbins event, and one of his guest speakers explained how he got a $1 million customer by mailing a handwritten letter and, more importantly, a small wooden box. And in that small wooden box was a silver dollar from the 1800s that looked like this. And of course, a silver dollar from the 1800s is worth more than $1. And the letter that he mailed and included with the box said this: "Dear sir, in this box is a $1 coin from the 1800s. But like my product, the face value is much more than $1. I'd be honored and humbled if I could please meet with you for a few minutes to explain this in more detail. Thank you." And when I used to work in the venture capital industry as a venture capitalist, it's really hard for startups to get meetings. So one startup actually mailed a poster that had me with a cowboy hat on. Let me try to play the part here. With me with a cowboy hat on. And instead of the poster saying "wanted dead or alive," it said "wanted, a meeting with you, Chris," and a picture of me to talk about how our company will put a dent in the universe. I took that meeting. It was actually a lot of fun. And when you do this, the worst thing that can happen is they don't respond. But most people will respond as they're going to appreciate your creative approach. And the second way to get a meeting with a customer or an informational meeting with potential employer is to go to the Twitter profile of that person you want to meet with and just see who they follow. You know, if they follow a sports team or a certain player, for example, Michael Jordan, then you can email them. And in the subject line of that email, you can write, "Great quote from Michael Jordan." And then you could start the email with a quote, like my favorite quote here, one of my many props on my messy floor. You can start with a quote, which says this in the email: "I failed over and over again, and that's why I succeed." And then you can write something that humbly brags. You can write something in the email below that quote that humbly brags about your product or you. You know, for example, "I've also failed many times when building my company, but I finally figured out how to save my customers 30% annually. And I'd be honored and humbled if we can please do a quick Zoom call or have a coffee meeting to discuss how I can also save you 30% annually on your expenses." Now, sports is wonderful boardroom talk. And one mistake we all make earlier in our careers is when we get meetings, we jump right into talking about the purpose of the meeting. No. We have to bond before business. So before any meeting, make sure you go to the Twitter profile of the person you want to meet with so that you know what to bond about when you first meet them. And don't make it obvious like, "I was stalking you on Twitter and I noticed that you like baseball." And just make it natural too when you meet with them to talk about those topics that you're passionate about as well. And in your email, last thing I'll say about this, or letter, please make it short because less is more. 3 sentences tops. And recently, a student of mine actually reached out to me. And in the subject line of the email, he wrote this: "Amazing that Vladimir Guerrero got 3 home runs last night!" Exclamation point. And Vladimir Guerrero is my favorite baseball player. He plays for the Toronto Blue Jays, which beat the heck out of the Yankees last night, and they always do. And of course, I answered that email as well. Now, as many of you know, I'm a proud Canadian, although I live in the States. Proud to be here too. I'm a Canadian, so I have to make a very quick hockey reference. Okay. So you can make the subject line of your email "life-changing quote from Wayne Gretzky, ... And then the email starts with a quote about Gretzky saying that Wayne Gretzky was very successful because he skated not to where the puck is, but rather he skated to where the puck is going to be. And then you can write this: "Similarly, I'm humbled to say," and before you brag, always say the word humble. Okay, maybe it's a Canadian thing for me. I grew up that way. But Wayne Gretzky's more humble than anybody. I love that guy. You can start with this: "Similarly, I'm humbled to say that my company's product knows where the market is going to be. So we can help you take your business to the next level by using future technology so you can beat the competition." All right, let me put down my hockey stick. They're a lot lighter now than they used to be. Gosh. All right, I feel like Gerald Ford dropping stuff here. All right, so let's move on now to the third one. The third way to get a meeting with a customer or an employer is, and this works incredibly well when COVID's not an issue, but what you do is you go to where they're presenting, okay, a public forum. For example, I've actually met many CEOs and C-level executives by going to the annual shareholder meetings. And nobody goes to these things anyway. They're almost empty. And they're like 4 hours long. They're boring. You've got a couple of old investors there, along with board members and employees, and there's always bad coffee. I don't know why. And at the end of that shareholder meeting, which anybody can go to, that's right. At the end of the shareholder meeting, go right to the top and talk to the CEO. Always talk to decision makers. And the CEO doesn't leave that board or that annual shareholder meeting until everybody else does. And the CEO will actually talk to you because what's happening is investors and employees and board members are there and they're watching them at that meeting. And so you can say something like this to the CEO: "It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been a big fan of your products for many, many years, and I'd be so honored to work at your company. Is there anyone I should speak with at your company? And the CEO might say, thank you. Please contact Diane Stone, who heads up human resources. And then what you do is you email Diane Stone, okay? And in the email you say, hope all is well. Today I met with your CEO, Michael Scott, and he said to contact you regarding blah, blah, blah. Now, if you don't know the email address of Diane Stone, you can try, Diane Stone at dundermifflin.com or companyname.com, or stoned, meaning stone, and the D, the first letter of her first name, stoned, at companyname.com. Worst thing that happens is those bounce until finally one makes it through. It works. Make those emails short, though. Okay, moving on to number 4. The fourth way to get a meeting is by using an in-mail on LinkedIn. Because I know everybody watching this has opened every in-mail you've ever received. And with this in-mail that you're going to send, what you have to do is you do an advanced search on LinkedIn for people that have at least 2 things in common with you. For example, they went to the same school as you did, and they're also from the same hometown you're from. And this strategy is priceless. I promise you it works. It's priceless because imagine yourself 20 years in the future. Okay, 20 years in the future, you're 20 years more successful than you already are today. And in the future, in 20 years, you get this in-mail from this person that's 20 years younger than you, but it's basically you. It's somebody with a lot in common with you. They're from the same hometown. They went to the same school as you. And you write this message. This is what you write in the LinkedIn message to the person you do an advanced search for. Jessica, hope all is well. I'm also from Mississauga, and I also went to the Toronto French School. And I also live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a quick Zoom call or a coffee meeting. Thanks a lot, Chris, your future boss. I'm kidding about the Chris part. Okay. Oh, or horrible dad humor to start the day. I'm sorry. Of course they're going to take the meeting because you would too. I know you would. Don't say why you want to meet though, okay? Or they won't respond, as they might feel bad that they can't help you. Now, the 5th and final way to get a meeting is to become a thought leader, okay? Like the Rodin sculpture, I think, therefore I am. It's all up here. So what you can do is you can write articles weekly on LinkedIn, and then you can repurpose the content of those articles through vlogs or tweets, etc. And once you write 1 article per week for about 2 years, then what you can do is you can take all those articles and you can put them in a book, okay? And it's really, really easy and free to create books as well. And this is how I made my book here. And what you can do is you can actually go and download my free template. I don't ask you for your email or anything. Just go to that web address there. You can download that template, which helps you to create a book in 9 inches by 6 inches format. And the template that you download from my website here, it's in Microsoft Word format. And there's one simple page of instructions at the front explaining how to publish your book for free on Kindle, Amazon Paper, and Audible, again, all for free. Then what you can do is in your meetings, you can bring the book and give it to them. And who does that? And you got to ask yourself, how badly do you want this job? Or how badly do you want this customer? Or how badly do you want to get into that university? And many of my students have actually done this, and it's worked out incredibly well for them as well. And for more details on many more creative ways to network and getting your dream job, please go to harouneducation.com and check out my MBA degree program or download my free networking book, which is a couple hundred pages. And if you think as a thought leader, okay, if you think like a thought leader and you write mini articles or vlogs, then what you think you will become. All right, let me take a quick sip of coffee here. All right. Buy land. They're not making it anymore. That's something that my grandfather used to tell me. God bless him. Now, why are billionaires like Bill Gates buying a lot of farmland now instead of real estate in big cities? Well, the reason is with COVID, many people realized that, hey, I can work from home, and why waste 2 hours in traffic destroying the environment, destroying my health, and destroying my family life when I work from anywhere using relatively cheap technology? And investment themes tend to last longer than we think. And I humbly think that the best return on investment in the real estate market in the long run is going to be buying land far away from big cities, which is what I've actually been doing recently in Canada as part of my upcoming real estate course. And you can even buy land on the cheap by buying it, but giving up the mineral rights on the land. For example, you can buy land in Texas, far away from Houston, Austin, and Dallas for a very low price. But if oil is found under the land, you give that up. But hey, you still own the land. And with real estate, we have to be very, very long-term focused, as economic cycles are brutally long. And, we have to be like, I got to give another Wayne Gretzky reference here. We got to be like Wayne Gretzky, and not skate to where the puck is. We skate to where the puck is going to be, meaning buy land in areas people are going to like. And this here was one of my first businesses when I was a kid. I would photocopy my cards, enlarge them, and sell them for $10. People would stick them on their walls. I still have it. Copyright violation, in hindsight, yes, but I was protected then under the Young Offenders Act in Canada. And by the way, let me go off script here. Buying cards or NFT cards in players that are not that well known, but likely could be in the Hall of Fame one day, is similar to buying land. Okay, it's similar to buying land as you're very long-term focused. And NFTs are sort of like land and baseball cards combined. And the supply is limited. Okay, you always got to look at supply. And to learn more about NFTs or any business topic, what you can do if you want to is you can go, and give me 1 second here. See if I can wing this off script here. Yeah. What you can do is you can go to my website, harounventures.com. And then up here at the top, you can search for NFT or any business topic. Okay, let me show you that really quick here. Yeah. So NFT, non-fungible token. Yeah. You can search for any business topic right here. Because what I've done is I've answered more than 10,000 questions using YouTube Live on my weekly Office Hours Webcast, as well as during my separate weekly MBA degree program Q&A webcast sessions, which occur every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Thank you. All right, let me get back on track here, guys. Give me 1 second. All right, cool. Let me get a sip of water. All right, let's do this. Tesla's stock has gone up close to 90% since last November when it was added to the S&P 500 index. So why do investors make a lot of money when a stock gets added to a large index like the S&P 500? Well, the first reason is that close to $8 trillion of money that large institutional investors like pension funds manage is actually in the S&P 500. It's a big deal. And the second reason why stocks go up a lot when they're added to the S&P 500 is because more and more investors are choosing not to buy mutual funds, which have high fees with low returns. Instead, what investors have been doing for a while now is they've been buying ETFs like ticker SPY. And ticker SPY is an ETF that you can buy that represents the 500 stocks in the S&P 500. So what happens is when a company like Tesla gets added to the S&P 500 index, then of course, when investors buy the SPY ticker or they invest in other S&P 500 ETFs, they're also buying Tesla. All ships rise. And the S&P 500 is actually managed by a company called Standard & Poor's. And the 500 stocks in the S&P 500 represents the U.S. economy. So as you do your investment research, which I teach in my MBA degree program, if a small part of your research uncovers the fact that, hey, this company should be in the S&P 500 one day, then this could actually be an incredibly positive catalyst for the stock and push it higher. And the inverse is true, of course, for short sellers and buyers of puts who profit immensely when companies are taken out of the S&P 500. As those stocks get crushed. And what I'll do is I'll actually teach you much more about this in my upcoming complete options course. Now, ETFs are a better investment than mutual funds as the fees are lower. And I want to show you my favorite ETF website, which can actually help you decide which ETFs to invest in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go together. Let me just tee this up here. We're going to go together to a website called etfdb.com. That's exchange traded fund database.com. Here we go. Cool. All right. And what you can do here is you can look through thousands of ETFs, right? So for example, say you want to invest in Brazil, for example. So you go here, you look at ETFs by country. You scroll down, you select Brazil, and then what you can do is you can pick an ETF here. Now, I'm going to pick this one, which is the ticker EWZ. That's how we say Z in Canada. Okay, this is the ticker for Brazil. And you can do research on it here by looking at the holdings. But what I recommend you do instead, and by the way, never pay for any websites. Just use all this stuff for free. It's all out there. So let's go to finance.yahoo.com. And what we'll do is we'll type in the ticker for the ETF for Brazil, EWZ. Okay, we can type SPY if we want to as well. And so the first thing you do when you look at ETFs, okay, the very first thing you do is you look at the fees. You want to make sure the fees are way under 1%. And so the annual fee for owning Brazil, okay, the Brazil ETF, we can see here it's 0.59%. So that means that for every $100 you put into this ETF every year, you pay 59 cents, which is actually a good deal. It's a good deal. Much lower fees than mutual funds. Then what you do next is you always check liquidity. You want to make sure that this thing trades a lot so that you can get in or out, God forbid, if you need to. Because we learned in 2008, hedge funds did, that illiquid stocks own us in a down market. And so what we do quickly is we look at the price, $34, and we look at the average volume, 25 million. Yes, we can get in really, really quickly and out as well if we need to. Okay, so let me get out of this mode here. Fun. Okay, so the bottom line is that being added to a massive index like the S&P 500 can be an incredibly positive catalyst for investors and short sellers that are actually terrified of GameStop, ticker GME, because GME might soon be added to the S&P 500 when the index gets rebalanced. Because one of the criteria for index inclusion, meaning to be part of the S&P 500, is the market cap must be at least $13.1 billion. Thanks. All right, give me 1 second to take a little water break here. All right, let's talk about hedge funds, man. Oh, you guys are going to love this. Hedge fund billionaire George Soros made more than $1 billion in one day in 1992 by betting against, meaning shorting the British pound. And I'm going to explain why this happened by first quickly explaining how currency volatility works. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use fake US dollars, and I'll also use as a prop and also money from Barbados. Okay, Barbados has a fixed exchange rate. But let's talk about the US dollar first. This is fake. Now, most currencies, like the United States dollar, most currencies go up and down based on the free market and based on how high or low interest rates are. And the US dollar goes up in price if the supply of dollars decreases, okay? And vice versa. If more of this stuff is made, it goes down in price. Okay, and that's how interest rates are changed. Also, the US dollar goes up or down based on global demand for US dollar. So the United States dollar, okay, like most currencies, is actually referred to as a variable currency, meaning it goes up and down based on the demand of the market. By contrast, the currency of Barbados is fixed and not variable. And the value of Barbados currency, the dollar, is fixed and pegged to the value of the US dollar. So if the US dollar goes up 10%, so does the Bayesian dollar in Barbados. And why did the Central Bank of Barbados, though, make their currency pegged or fixed to the US dollar? Well, they did it because a massive percent of Barbados' revenue, meaning their GDP, is based on tourists from the United States, and currency volatility is bad for business. And so the exchange rate of the Bayesian dollar to the US dollar is fixed at a 2-to-1 rate. So what that means is 10 US dollars is equal to 20 Bayesian dollars. Now, how does the Central Bank of Barbados ensure, from a supply and demand perspective, that the rate stays at 2-to-1? Well, what they do is they have a massive reserve of US dollars. And the Central Bank of Barbados buys and sells their currency using US dollars to make sure that the rate stays pegged or fixed to the US dollar at a 2-to-1 ratio. Now, could greedy hedge funds short the Bayesian dollar and force them to no longer be fixed or pegged to the United States dollar? Yes, they can. But I hope that never happens. All right, let's talk about Black Wednesday, from September of 1992, when George Soros here broke the Bank of England, and he made over $1 billion in one day. So back in 1992, the British pound was pegged or fixed to several different European currencies because England does a lot of business with European countries, and back then the euro didn't exist. And the way to keep the pound fixed at the same level as a basket of other European countries, other European currencies, the way to keep it fixed is the Bank of England has to buy and sell lots of British pounds relative to US or to European currencies in order to keep the value of the pound fixed relative to a basket of other European currencies. Now, the economy in the United Kingdom was just terrible in the early 90s. As were parts of Europe, partially due to the complexity of reuniting East and West Germany. Remember that? And so in August of 1992, George Soros' hedge fund called Quantum borrowed 1.5 billion pounds from many big banks in England. And then he quickly shorted the pound by selling the pound in size and converting it quickly into German Deutschmark. And he thought, hey, if I convert 1.5 billion pounds into German Deutschmarks, then demand for the Deutschmark would rise a lot and the price of the pound would fall big time. And as a result, everybody would be terrified of owning pounds, so many people would sell the pound, and he could then buy back the pound at a lower price and close out the short position and make a fortune. The problem is the pound didn't go down when he did this. Right. So what he did was he more than doubled down, and he said this, let's go for the jugular at the time. Not cool. So what he did was he shorted more pounds. And by September of 1992, George Soros increased his short position from 1.5 billion pounds to 10 billion pounds, meaning he borrowed another 8.5 billion pounds. And he immediately sold those pounds, driving the price of the pound even lower. And then what happened was the hedge fund mafia jumped on board, and many other hedge funds actually piled into the short trade by also borrowing billions and billions more in pounds, in short selling. And what happened was the British government, rightly so, freaked out. And the Bank of England, actually, what they did was they tried to buy close to 30 billion pounds at a higher price. But it didn't work because every major foreign exchange trader shorted the pound, and the Bank of England just couldn't stabilize the pound at a higher price. And so the Bank of England, they panicked, and they increased the interest rate that day in September 1992 by 2% in one day. And that's unheard of, to increase it by 2%, meaning 200 basis points in one day. And they thought this would make investors want to own the pound and buy the pound because rates went from 10 to 12% that day. They thought this would push the value of the pound up. But it didn't work at all. as way too many hedge funds were shorting the pound, overpowering the Bank of England's efforts. And so what happened was immediately the Bank of England increased interest rates again that same day from 12% to 15%. Okay. And they did this to try to increase the value of the pound relative to other currencies. Now, let's take a step back and think about this. Imagine interest rates in your country going up 5% in a single day. Now, the problem is this didn't work. No matter what the Bank of England did, they couldn't continue to artificially peg, meaning fix, their currency, the pound, to a basket of other European currencies. So what happened was that night, the Bank of England said, we're no longer going to peg or fix our currency, the pound, to a basket of European currencies. And going forward, there would actually be a variable exchange rate policy for the pound, like we have in the United States. So the free market would decide what the pound is worth. And so what happened was the pound dropped 25% very quickly against the US dollar. And it also dropped 15% against the German Deutschmark then. So what happened was George Soros' hedge fund called Quantum, it made close to $7 billion, okay? $7 billion of profit. And the way that hedge funds work is hedge funds get 20% of what they make for investors, which means Soros made more than $1 billion shorting the British pound in that one day. And George Soros later did this to the exact same thing to the Thai baht. And unfortunately, he made a fortune. And I don't recommend shorting stocks as the losses can be infinite. Instead, if you want to bet against a company, I advise buying puts and using various option strategies, which are part of my upcoming complete options course. All right, let's talk about mergers and acquisitions. How do you legally find out what merger and acquisition deals are likely going to be announced? Well, there's two different ways you can do this legally. One way is through the media, and the second way is through options. Now, let's kick it off with the media. The media actually gets a hall pass when it comes to insider information, as long as, of course, they don't transact on the information. And great journalists never reveal their sources. So what happens is in their articles on upcoming merger and acquisition deals, these articles often start with, according to people familiar with the matter, Salesforce, for example, is in late stage discussions to buy Slack. And what some traders do is they set up Google alerts to immediately find out if their favorite tickers, along with, according to people familiar with the matter, is mentioned in a news story. And that way, using Google alerts, you find out immediately before many other people do, and you can transact quickly if you want to. So what I want to do is, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I want to talk about the best websites for this kind of information. And you're going to think what I'm about to do is ridiculous. But let's go together. Let's do this together. Let's go to Google, okay? Or Bing if you work at Microsoft. Sorry, sort of, not really. Okay, so let's go to Google. And what we're going to do is we're going to search together for, in quotes, according, and I did this yesterday, so it's right there, right here, according to people familiar with the matter. Okay, great. And what I'm going to do is we're going to click on news here, okay? And then we're going to highlight this. This is a cool little trick you can do in Chrome. You highlight something, and then you click Control F or Command F, and you can actually search for that. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you all the many deals out there that are currently, and I'm winging this here, that are currently reported by the top publications. Okay, so according to people familiar with the matter, let's see here, let's find some M&A ones. Let's go down here. Hold on a second. So as you can see, the great websites for this sort of thing are Bloomberg, right? Bloomberg does a great job on disclosing deals that are coming. And so does the New York Times Deal Book. That's my favorite one, New York Times. And the Wall Street Journal has a great column called Heard on the Street. Okay, so let's keep clicking through and find All right, hold on a second. And it also discloses private equity deals. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, look at this. One company here, TDR-backed EG Group, is said to weigh options, including a sale. According to people familiar with the matter, that company is considering selling themselves. You know, if that company is publicly traded, of course, the stock goes up a lot. Okay, and I'll get to the option side in a second. But you can keep searching here, and eventually you will find M&A activity. Okay, hold on a second. And I found one here the other day with Citrix. Okay, Citrix, which is a software company. Here we go. Okay. All right. So right here in this article here, and there's a couple of them. It looks like Elliott Management. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. Elliott Management, which is a private equity firm that buys companies on the cheap and sells them, makes a fortune. They're activist investors. Okay, like Carl Icahn. What they've done is they have $1 billion stake in Citrix, right? Citrix is not being managed correctly. It's based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is probably the reason it hasn't been acquired by a big software company yet. It's being mismanaged, apparently, and it's a cloud company that doesn't have a cloud valuation. And so Elliott bought 10% position in the company, according to people familiar with the matter. Okay, so this will bring us actually to our second way to see if a company might get acquired, which is we look at the call option of volume. Okay, so let's do that for Citrix here. Okay, so we go to finance.yahoo.com. And then what we'll do is we'll type in Citrix and we're gonna look at the options together, okay? So the way to find out if a company actually has options on it, not all of them do, is you enter their ticker on Yahoo Finance, then you click here on options. And if you see data here, it means there's options on it. And so what we'll do is, just for fun, I'm going to look at the furthest options date from here, called a leap. Okay, and this means you can invest in the company by buying calls that are going to expire in 2 years. So if we look at leaps here, what we can see here is the strike price of $75 for Citrix, meaning if in 2 years by this date, the price of Citrix is over $75, you make money. And we see here the open interest is massive, okay? And when you start to see volumes spike here, and you got to monitor this every single day, okay, then it could tip off the fact that, hey, something's going on, somebody might know something, and this company could get acquired. And going off script here about 9/11, where the 20th anniversary is coming up on 9/11 now. And I remember I worked at Goldman Sachs at the time, and when we were allowed to go back to work a week or two after 9/11, I went back to my desk, and on Bloomberg, my Bloomberg terminal, I was curious about how, of course, American Airlines and Continental, Delta, those stocks were down big time, but I was curious about the put volume on those companies before 9/11, and I did what I just showed you here, the same analysis. I looked at the put volume on American Airlines, Delta, Continental, back before 9/11. Okay, I looked at it, and the put volume was at a record high a couple days before 9/11, and so of course some fucker knew about it and profited immensely from 9/11. And the government actually uses puts and call options. They look closely at what I'm showing you right now to find out if insider information occurs. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, sorry to go off script there, but you can actually also, if you don't want to use a Yahoo Finance for options, what you can also do is you can download this amazing product made by TD Ameritrade called Think or Swim. And here you can analyze the options, which is what I've been doing. You can create complex options products like iron condors and much, much more here. And you can also analyze historical volume of calls and puts. So again, do a search on download Think or Swim. And if you're in a country that you can't use this product, and you can use it to create a simulated paper portfolio, then what I recommend doing is using a VPN. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll go through this a lot more in my upcoming complete options course. Thanks. All right. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, here we go. Can't believe it's 20 years ago, man. Unbelievable. Amazing. Amazing. If you guys get a chance, there's a really good documentary actually on Netflix on 9/11. It's 6 parts. It shows you exactly what Bush was thinking at the time. They interview him a lot in his cabinet. It's really well done. So check it out on Netflix. Let's talk about future investing. Let's also discuss hedge funds and artificial intelligence. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to talk about the most successful hedge fund manager of all time. It's a guy named Jim Simmons who founded Renaissance Technology, which has averaged an annual return of actually more than 60% every single year, okay, since the 1980s. It's unbelievable. And even in 2008, his flagship fund was actually up 98%. And that was in a year when the S&P 500 was down close to 40%. And last year, his fund was up 76%. So how does this guy do it? You know, how does he do it? And what can we learn from him when we invest? Well, Jim leveraged his passion for mathematics at Berkeley, and he actually worked for the NSA as a Cold War code breaker. Then what he did was he started teaching math, and his lifelong mission is how do we make better math teachers in America? I love this guy. And so in order to create charities to help students learn math, he needed a lot of money to fund his charities. So what he did was in 1982, in a strip mall in Long Island, he started hedge fund Renaissance Technologies. And Renaissance Technologies uses artificial intelligence-based math equations to pick and trade stocks. So basically what his computers do is they use lots of data and they look for non-random, normally distributed patterns, and then they pick stocks. And so we all know that if you look at a lot of data, you can actually find if the data is random or not, right? So that's normal distribution. It works with data sets. And a lot of people on Wall Street make a fortune analyzing stuff using normal distribution, which I'll talk about in a second. But when he analyzes lots of data, his computers, what they'll do is they'll look for normally distributed patterns. So, for example, if his computers notice that it's raining more than it usually does in certain locations, then the computers short restaurant stocks, as you know, fewer people go out to eat when it's raining. And his computers are also set up like a casino, right? And by the way, these props here that I have, normal distribution, statistical stuff, all this stuff here, I'm going to be using to teach about options in my upcoming Complete Options course. And the reason I have this is I'm teaching about Monte Carlo option simulation. But his computers won't try to make a killing on a single trade. But just like a slot machine, which are called one-armed bandits, but just like a slot machine and casinos, he only wants very small bets. So statistically, he only has to be right about 51% of the time with millions and millions of different trades. Now, his computers have made over $100 billion from profits. And as I mentioned, since the 80s, his funds are up over 60% on average every year. And the key takeaway from Jim is that an amazing way to make money is by using options instruments like iron condors or spread trades, etc., to make a small amount of money on many trades. And that's actually how casinos operate. And it's why I'm teaching it my options course like this, using casinos. They make a fortune. Now, if you make a ton of smaller bets using options, and you use the beauty of mathematics to analyze probabilities, then you can make a killing. And Renaissance loves to hire people not from the finance industry, as he hires plenty of physicists and mathematics scholars. Now, if you patiently take the time to analyze historical stock market data and implied volatility versus historical volatility, and you look at the probabilities of being able to make money, then I think there is a massive future opportunity for you to do just that, leveraging math, artificial intelligence, and options writing to collect small premiums. And the issue I find is that the issue with many investors is many of us try to make a killing on a single trade. But if you do that, then that's the antithesis of making small bets. Like you'll notice when you go to a casino, casinos usually don't let you make massive bets. They want to make a little bit of money over time. It's all math. And that's how Jim Simmons runs his hedge fund as well. And if you really, really do take the time to analyze historical stock movements and options, then with patience and the mentality of hitting mini singles, okay, instead of home runs, right? If you hit mini singles, then like casinos, you can create a great living doing that. Then what you can do is you can think about creating your own artificial intelligence-based algorithms to feed many data inputs into your algorithm to analyze data and profit immensely from it, okay? Nickels and dimes, right? We go for singles and doubles, not home runs. And I know that sounds like a stretch, but if you take the time to build a mining computer and you download mining software to mine cryptocurrencies, and then if you learn Python or other top programming languages, which you can do online for a low fee, and given the fact that the cost of processing power and data warehouses continues to plummet through Amazon Web Services, etc., then you can also start your own Renaissance technologies. Whether or not you think you can do it, you're right. Okay. All right, this is the last topic we're going to talk about today. Unless you own a monopoly, if you don't think about how to disrupt your own business model longer term, then somebody else is going to do it for you. And this is exactly what Netflix did in 2007 when they started letting customers stream movies instead of renting them on DVDs. And this here is the Netflix founder, Reed Hastings. Now, at that time back in 2007, there wasn't much demand for streaming services. And Netflix could have stayed in the DVD rental market for many years. And like Blockbuster, they too could have seen revenue materially contract. And so as much as I love doing market research, instead of giving customers what they ask for, think 10 years from now, okay? Think 10 years from now, what will they ask for then? Otherwise, as Henry Ford actually told his investors, he said, before he created the car, if I listen to current consumer demand, they're asking for a faster horse. And Warren Buffett once said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. And I think that before investing in any company, we need to ask ourselves one basic question, which is this. In 10 years, is this company or the market going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? Okay. Now I'll help you see the forest from the trees. And by asking yourself this question here, it stops you from getting seduced by wanting to buy tech stocks that are cheap. They're cheap for a reason. Because once a tech company starts slowly becoming less relevant, then it's game over. Unless the founder of the company returns. Now, the most successful technology stock investors don't give a damn about the valuation of the company this year or next year. It's a different way to think. They care about the valuation based on their own earnings estimates in 5 or 10 years. Okay? So they create a financial model and they focus on earnings in 5 or 10 years. And that way, it makes you longer-term focused and not a tourist and a renter in stocks, and you don't sell them at the worst time. Let me give you an example. So years ago, I was long LinkedIn. The ticker was LNKD before Microsoft bought them in the summer of 2016. And years before that, I owned the stock. And people would say, Chris, you're crazy. LinkedIn is trading at 100 times earnings. And I would say, no, dude. It's trading at 4 times my earnings estimate in 5 years. It's cheap. And so that's what you have to do. And but at that point in time, I thought LinkedIn was going to be a $1 trillion market cap one day because they owned the HR recruiting market. And then Microsoft, since bought them, hasn't really done much with the asset, to be intellectually honest. Okay. But back in 2007, back to Reed Hastings here. Back in 2007, investors thought, my goodness, Netflix is expensive on a valuation basis because they're spending all this money on R&D to disrupt their DVD business model. And so a rookie mistake is to short stocks because they're expensive on this year's earnings without looking at the long-term earnings of the company and the company's long-term product roadmap. And so Netflix's product of movies hasn't really changed much, since they were founded, but the delivery certainly has. And they've disrupted themselves. And there's plenty of other examples in the marketplace of this. The same thing can be said with Domino's Pizza. Their product hasn't changed much, but they had the incredible foresight to invest a ton of money in R&D and then leverage technology as well, and using cutting-edge logistics to deliver their products. Or, God forbid, what would have happened if they didn't do that is the gazillions of food delivery companies like Grubhub would have too much market power over them in the long run. And Amazon, we all know, and this is one of their earlier websites, kind of need to look at it. Amazon also disrupted their own business model, right? And initially, remember, they were just selling books. So they disrupted their own business model by they created Kindle. And the same thing with Lego. I'm sure the executives at Lego back in the year 2000, when they were about to go bankrupt, I'm sure back then the executives asked themselves, in 20 years, will more customers play more virtual games or physical games? And so what Lego did was they made a bunch of amazing Lego video games and movies. And it's fascinating, as my kids, they don't have as many physical toys as I did growing up because they own digital rights in the cloud to video games, music, etc. And so when you meet with companies and you're doing your investor due diligence, CEOs will tell you their long-term vision. And they'll also let you know if there's some sort of disruption or digital brand extension coming in the future. And if this is not part of their roadmap, meaning re-engineering their company and changing to be more successful, then you have to watch out because this company could become a value trap for investors. And let's talk about how to ask questions. In one of the first hedge funds I worked at, my portfolio manager was a lawyer. So he told me how to ask questions the right way. So for example, whenever you ask people questions in business, think of trials, right? When somebody asks a question and leads the witness, right? And the judge will say, or overruled, you're leading the witness. You always have to ask in neutral ways. Instead of saying, how amazing is business right now? Well, people are going to, of course, answer it in a positive way. You ask it like this. You say, how should I think about the general business environment now? How should I think about it? Okay. So you can ask CEOs the right way about their future plans as follows. I'll give you a couple of examples, and I've used these a lot in real life situations. Number one, how should we think about what your products and services will be like in a decade? And they love that question, and they'll generally answer it in vague but obvious terms. Okay. Or you can ask a second question, which is this. As you think about your longer term product portfolio, where would you say the potential gaps are? And another question I recommend asking every CEO as you do due diligence on potentially investing in their company is this. Number three, what is the most misunderstood aspect of your business model by investors and customers? All right, it is time for Q&A. And so you all know how it works. You type your questions there in YouTube, and I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them. Let me put on my shoes here. I stand all day long, so my feet get tired sometimes. But the reason I stand is because earlier this year I got a couple complaints from students. One data point doesn't make a trend, but a couple less. And students would say, Chris, you sound a bit tired. And so I got rid of my chair in my office. Right? And I don't sit down anymore, except when I watch the Blue Jays beat the Yankees at night. All right, cool. So let me go through questions. I answer them in the order in which I receive them. If I miss your question, please just paste it again. Thanks. Okay. Peyton Go, you're a legend. God bless you, Peyton. Peyton's in my one of my favorite people. He's actually in my MBA degree program. He's awesome. He's in the Navy right now, and he and his wife Hannah are moving to Tulsa. Great guy, and he's got a great vlog. So everybody follow him, please, on YouTube. Okay, so Zoralina wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning to you, too. First time seeing you on the call. I hope you join us again. Always looking forward to your Thursday webcast. Thank you. Me too. My question is, do you know of a database for REITs in Canada, where I'm from, and how do I pick some good dividend REITs? Yeah, great question. So I don't know of a particular database, but I'll answer this generally to apply to everybody globally. So REITs, R-E-I-T, that stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. And what happens is big companies, like when you look around all these strip malls and office buildings, you're like, dude, who owns these things? Well, companies create these financial products called REITs, and they raise a lot of money, and then they invest it by buying strip malls or buildings, whatever it is. And you can buy them. There are tickers for them. Just do a search in Yahoo Finance, type REIT, and you'll see a bunch appear. And the law stipulates in most countries that 90% of the profits of those real estate investment trusts must go out as dividends. And so REITs have higher dividend yields than almost all companies. However, whenever you see a high dividend yield for any company, doesn't matter if it's a REIT or not, if it seems a little bit too high, I want you to question, why is it too high? You know, and sometimes companies have dividend yields over 20%, but there's a reason for that. They might be going bankrupt. So always do your due diligence. And in my MBA program, I provide my students with a 100-step process for analyzing companies. And I certainly cover dividend yields and that in a lot of detail. But it's so hard for me to tell you which REITs to buy right now because you really have to do a lot of research on it. Yeah. Okay, and if you want to learn more about real estate in Canada, you can talk to one of my best friends there. He runs a firm called Rockstar Real Estate. His name is Tom Karadza. Do a search for Rockstar Real Estate and ask him. He's great. All right, he's my real estate advisor. And actually, I bought a couple of buildings in Canada recently using his advice. He's great. All right, next up, who you wrote, hey, Chris, I hope you and your family are well. Likewise. Could you give us 3 tips or topics about marketing that everybody must know? Yeah. So the first one is, like, a lot of people, they don't spend money on marketing or advertising because they want to get a return on investment immediately. The best way to think about it, and this is what I teach in my MBA program through case studies, is you have to think about the lifetime value of the customer. And so I do a case study in my MBA program on Coca-Cola, launching a pretend product called Coca-Cola Garlic. And what we do is we analyze how much money each consumer of Coca-Cola Garlic, fake product, will consume, how much money they'll spend on this product for their entire lives. And this is how Amazon, this is how analysts like myself back in the late 90s valued Amazon. We looked at the lifetime value of the customer. And so that's the most important thing I think you can think about when it comes to marketing. The second thing I'll mention about marketing, just general advertising, is that it's like you're dating somebody. And I've learned this the hard way. I've made lots of mistakes. When you market to get students, for example. Like, before you buy a Toyota car, you see like 10 or 12 commercials. And it's like Toyota is dating you for a while, and then you get married. And it's the same way with me trying to get customers as well. I can't just send out one email and then people buy my courses. You have to do it slowly over time. So that's the second thing. The first was lifetime value of the customer. Second is just think longer term and dating, right? There's got to be many, many touch points. And the third most important thing when it comes to marketing is leveraging social media and repurpose your content so you can work smarter, not harder. And so many of you know that this weekly call I do, I repurpose it. It's also a podcast, which you can access on my website. And I repurpose it into little videos of vlogs, Twitter videos, LinkedIn videos, etc. Yeah, and it's free. And YouTube is the only gold rush in history that costs you nothing to make the product. And it's the only gold rush in history where you can make a fortune in the long run for free and access billions of customers for free. So you got to have a social media strategy. And my dad told me, I love my dad. He said, Chris, only take advice from successful people. So I don't want you to take advice from me. I want you to take advice from Gary Vaynerchuk. And I'm going to show you how very, very quickly here. All right, so Gary V, as many of you know, is this social media icon. Okay, and sometimes he rubs people the wrong way as he's abrasive, but you grow to love him because he's very transparent. And so what you can do is do a search for Gary V, And in terms of deciding which social media platforms you should use, this is something that I kind of came up with by analyzing him. Go to the bottom of his website. And this is the order of the social media products you should use to leverage your company and advertise. Okay. So, and he has them in order. So this is the most important one. Okay. This is the gospel of Gary Vee. It's Insta, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, which I can't figure out, LinkedIn, and then podcasts. Okay. And he got rid of Method, and so did I. It was a loser platform. It's not going anywhere. And my gut is he's going to probably add TikTok here somewhere very, very soon. Yeah. So I would pay attention to him. Now, also, Gary Vee has this amazing free product you can use. It's just a presentation. It's called Gary Vee, 86 pages. Everyone should read this, of insanity. And so all it is this 86-page presentation that tells you how to create the content pyramid, so to speak. So it's what I was talking about before, how I make my pillar content, the YouTube, this weekly call, and then I repurpose it throughout the week on different platforms through micro content. So check that out if you get a chance. Gary Vee is great. You can also listen to his books, his audio books that he narrates himself, which are great. All right, give me 1 second. Okay, cool. All right, next up, Sanyam wrote, "Hey, Chris, as always, a great pleasure to meet you here. Likewise, thank you. Also excited about the super class tomorrow. Yeah, thank you. It should be fun. It should be fun. You'll like it. You'll like it. Yeah. And then next up, can I get a business management job after completing Haroun MBA? What should my strategy to move from core civil engineering job to management profile? Thanks in advance." Yeah, you're welcome. So it all comes down to I can take you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. And I say that with love in my heart. But I promise you that if you apply the networking stuff that I teach you, right, in the personal growth track, there's 5 tracks. If you apply that, then I promise you what will happen is you will get the job of your dreams eventually, right? But it's a game of numbers, right? It's like dating. If you ask 2 people out and you get nervous, like I did, you'll never find your soulmate. But if you ask 100 people out, meaning if you set up 100 networking meetings, I promise you it'll work. And what I used to do when I used to teach live in classes during the evenings in the Bay Area, at one of the schools I taught at, San Francisco State University, best students ever, I love them to death. What I would do is this. It was a 10-week class I taught, right, MBA students and undergrads. And on the first day, I told all students, I said, if I told all of you, and I had 70 people in my classes, I loved it. It was fun. Big classes rock. I said, if I told all of you that if in the next 10 weeks you set up 10 informational meetings, that you would get the job of your dreams, would you do it? And of course, it's like the wave. All 70 hands went up. And on the very, very last day of class, right before the final exam, which was always easy, and they used to criticize me for grade inflation, and I would always say, yeah, but this is the best class I've ever had. But on the final day of class, before the final exam, I asked my students, I asked all of them, I said, okay, how many of you did 10 informational meetings over the past 10 weeks? No hands go up. I said, how many did 9? No hands go up. How many did 8? 1 or 2 hands would go up. And those students were never the ones that got the top grades. Those students that lifted their hands, that did those 8 meetings, always got the job of their dreams. And so the bottom line is, I promise you, the stuff that I teach you will make you successful. But you have to practice because, as Tony Robbins said, repetition is the mother of all skill. And if you buy my MBA program, there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. So you can binge watch it and get your money back if you want. My marketing guys hate when I say that. Okay. All right. But it all comes down to networking. Yeah. And the old rules of just applying to a job because you see a job opening doesn't work anymore because you're just a number. Thousands of other people apply as well. You got to use my philosophy, my networking tips to set up informational meetings. It works, I promise you. Okay, and you can rewind this vlog and go back to this video. Go back to the first thing I talked about today for tips. Okay, next up, Hui wrote, beside the ability to go sell their services or product, what are some other qualities that successful CEO startup founders must have? Yeah, they have to be great salespeople. Yeah. I think that a successful CEO has to be a good listener. I think they have to focus on mentoring others. I think they have to focus on also being mentored and pushing the goalpost out. The reason you make CEO is because you're mentored by great people, but you got to ask, right? And you got to also find ways to present from your heart and motivate your employees, which is something I also teach in my MBA program. Yeah, so that's what I would say. And you have to be an eloquent speaker as well. Yeah. And when it comes to managing people, the problem with a lot of companies is if you're good at what you do, you get promoted to manage people. That's not the way it should be. So if you're a good programmer, doesn't mean you should be promoted to manage programmers. If you're a good trader on a trading floor, doesn't mean you should be promoted to manage other traders. You have to learn people skills. And one of the most important managerial skills I've learned over the years, pardon me, is you always want to praise in public and only criticize in private. Because there's nothing worse than being, criticized by your boss in front of all of your team members and stuff. Yeah. All right. Next question is, how much does it cost to start a 501c3 nonprofit? It doesn't really cost you anything to start a company except for the registration fees. And so it might cost you a couple $100s to register the 501c. Just go to LegalZoom.com and talk to somebody there, a lawyer. They'll charge you a couple $100 to register your company for you. And LegalZoom, if you don't have LegalZoom, if you're in a different country, just do a search for what is the LegalZoom.com equivalent in Canada or whatever country you're in. And LegalZoom's now in the United Kingdom and Canada as well. Yeah. Okay. And then Hui wrote, hey, Chris, how can we publish our articles in the local newspaper? Yeah. So I'm humbled to say I've been, in a lot of newspapers, magazines over the years, Wired Magazine, Venture Beat, bunch of other places. I had my own column in Inc. magazine. And the way I got all that stuff was I networked a lot. Okay, I networked a lot. I used LinkedIn, and my success rate, humbly, my success rate on getting meetings with people that I've never met before by using LinkedIn has always been 95%. And I don't say that to impress you, rather, I say it to impress upon you the fact that anybody can do it. And so here, just go to my website, I'll show you, and download my networking book for free. Actually, I don't even need to show you. Just go to harounventures.com, scroll down, and download my networking book. It's free, it's a couple hundred pages, and it has all the tips that I used to meet with many people in the media to interview me, as well as to myself be able to be a guest writer. Yeah. And my goal has always been to write in the New York Times, and I've tried, but I've never successfully done it. Like if you want to write for the New York Times, right, as a guest columnist, what you do, and you can email them, right? There's a website for it, and it works for most publications. Make sure that you have data to back up your qualitative thesis, okay? Because without data, it's just an opinion. And my dad reads the New York Times every day, and it's kind of nice because I got interviewed by the New York Times last week, and my dad saw the article, and it was kind of cool. I love you, Dad. I'm always seeking approval, even at 50. All right. And then Zoralita wrote, I'd love to see that article of yourself in the Wall Street Journal. How can we find it? Yeah. I don't know if I've been in the Wall Street Journal, but you can always do a search on Chris Haroun and then whatever newspaper. Maybe I've been quoted there. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. And then Zoralina said, oh, you did found. Okay, you found OHAM in the journal. Okay, cool. Thanks. You wrote, I just found your article on Google, of course. Cool, thanks. According to people familiar with the matter. Yeah. All right, moving on to Amani, who said, hi, Haroun. Hey, thank you so much for the pearls of business wisdom. You're most welcome. Thank you. What do you think about an idea of online art shop that takes quality African art to Europe? Yeah. It's tough. Unless you have recognized brands. You could definitely do it. But one thing I worry about is inventory, distribution, etc. I would think about NFTs. I know it sounds cray-cray for me to mention that. And it's not hard to create an NFT. Basically all NFTs are created on the Ethereum platform, right? So just go to my website, do a search, go to Haroun Ventures, do a search on NFTs, and you'll see. All right. And you could be early. You have first mover advantage, man. Not many people are doing this. All right. Next up, hey, Colin, how are you, man? Colin wrote, hey, Chris, how's it going, man? Love those LinkedIn posts. Thank you. Good to see you. Huey, how are you? Huey's in my MBA program. He's saying good day. He's based in Western Australia, where there's no lockdown. The lockdown's on the east side of it. He's awesome. He is a thought leader on HVACs, air conditioners. He's actually applied a lot of the stuff that I've taught him in the program much more successfully than I've done. And he's held a bunch of webcasts as well, like YouTube lives, and he's had hundreds of people on them as well. He's a great guy. Good to see you, Huey. Huey, during our next one-on-one, let's talk about the option stuff we talked about last week for a couple hours. I've done a lot of work since. I figured out the iron condor as well. I can't wait to show you that. All right, next up, Zoralina wrote, hi again. What's the music on your web intro? Love it. Yeah. So I get all my music from storyblocks.com. Okay. And so I pay, I think it's like $100 a year, but this is what I do. So you can go to storyblocks.com and get it there. I can't remember the name of the tune, but what you can do is while you're listening to that music, just ask your iPhone or Android handset who sings this. It'll tell you. Yeah. Okay. Tyrell wrote, hey, Chris, I'm looking to switch careers and move into finance. What steps do you recommend while I'm building education? As a 35-year-old, is it too late to have great success moving careers like this? Absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. The average life expectancy is 26 years longer than it was in the 1950s. So you're 26 years younger than your age of 35. I've changed careers in my 30s a couple times. The best way to do it is to network like crazy. Don't just apply to jobs because they might look at your resume and see, well, he hasn't worked in the finance industry before. I don't know. What you have to do instead is you have to set up informational meetings and rewind today's video, and watch the very first topic, which was how to get meetings. And I want you to set up a ton of informational meetings. What I also recommend doing is think about, and this is more of a generic answer for everybody, before every meeting, you got to think what motivates the person I'm meeting with. People are usually motivated by three things in business. Number one, they want to make more money. Number two, they want to get promoted. Number three, they want to enjoy what they do. And so Sun Tzu in The Art of War said every battle is won before it's been fought. And so before you go into those meetings, I want you to think about how can I help those people in 1, 2, or 3 of those ways. And the way to do it is to prepare templates, write-ups to bring them. And I teach this in the first semester of my MBA degree program. Yeah. It works, I promise you. Okay, or your money back. Kevin, good morning to you too. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Pearl, how are you? Jitender wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm always great, thank you. I hope you're doing well. How do you justify a 2-year gap after graduation with no work experience? Yeah. Everything is explainable. Okay, so if there's a personal reason why that happened, like you're taking care of family members, just open up and discuss that as you do your informational meetings. And the more transparent you are and open and vulnerable, the more lovable you become. It's kind of like when you watch somebody give a presentation. When they mess up, you like them more. So you be you, you do you, because everybody else is taken. Yeah, just explain it. Yeah, but I think that just applying to jobs is not going to work as well because people are going to see a gap. I think you need to get the informational meetings first. Okay, and again, you can take my MBA program in the first semester in the personal growth track. I explain how to network and what to bring to meetings in order to enhance the chance of you getting hired. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Zoralina wrote, nice polo shirt, Chris. Thank you. I'm trying something a little bit different here. My hair's getting longer too. I used to cut my own hair for 10 or 20 years, and I've been going to DD Salon, DD in Burlingame, but she had to shut it for COVID reasons recently. So my hair's getting long. All right. And Tenzil wrote, I am migrating on a student visa as a computer science student from Pakistan to either Montreal, I used to live there, or any of the Atlantic provinces in Canada this February. Any advice for me? Yeah. So when you first arrive, it might feel a bit lonely if you don't, hang out with if you don't find friends, etc. And so I have a couple of students that migrated from Nigeria to Canada. And I showed them how to use LinkedIn to find people that are also from Nigeria, their same hometown, that also went to the same school they went to in Nigeria, that live in Canada. And I taught them how to reach out and network that way. So when you arrive in Montreal, what I want you to do is I want you to do an advanced search in LinkedIn and find people that are also from Pakistan that have at least two things in common with you. They went to the same school, and maybe they're from the same hometown, or Lahore, Karachi, whatever it might be. And I promise you this works, and I teach how to network on steroids in my MBA degree program, or your money back. Yeah, and in terms of learning the language, if it's English or French, when you arrive, a lot of my friends, what they did was they learned by watching television. And also they turned on closed captions. Yeah, you're going to love it. Montreal's the best. Okay, and I remember I went to McGill, I remember freezing my ass off, lining up to get into the bars in the winter. And then on the way home, I didn't feel it. Yeah, I had so much fun, no regrets. Yeah, it's the best city in the world in the summer. Next up, Harsh wrote, when should a business hire full-time legal department? Yeah, I believe in outsourcing everything, okay, unless you're a massive, massive company, right? So I would say the only time to hire, internal legal is when you get to well over 200 employees or so. A lot of the startups I look at, they start with a couple employees and they scale to about 1,000 employees before they go public. And then finally around that time, once they get more than a couple hundred employees, then they'll hire legal counsel. Yeah. But I outsource everything. So my legal department is LegalZoom.com. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, how can I be a global businessman and run my business from India and buy companies in the United States from India? Yeah. So this is something you have to talk to a local lawyer about as well. You can buy pieces of company, of course, by investing in U.S. stocks, but you have to talk to a local lawyer to ask more about that. Yeah. Okay. Then Harsh wrote, I live in India. How can I buy investments in real estate in Canada or in the United States? You can buy REITs, real estate investment trusts, or what you can do is you can talk to a local lawyer and ask them how to set that up. Yeah, I'm not sure how the process works. Sorry. But I own land in different countries. That hasn't been an issue ever. Yeah. But always talk to a lawyer first before doing that stuff. They might convince you not to do it too. And talk to your accountant. And nobody should do their own taxes anywhere. Any of my students, always get an accountant to do your taxes. Always. Because it's their job to understand the tax rules and how they change, and they change quickly. Yeah. All right. Next up, I got Carlos wrote, Hola, I'm a proud crypto and MBA alumni. Thank you. Good to see you. Would you care to comment on the last Ethereum London fork upgrade, CC big low value, and any thoughts on how to avoid losses? Should we need to keep an eye on upgrades? Yeah. So what's happening is the Ethereum blockchain is changing slightly to the extent that soon you won't be able to mine Ethereum by this December. Yeah. Logistically, I don't understand why they're doing it. But I'm still mining it right now. And I'll show you my mining computer if you care. So just go to my website here /crypto, all lowercase. And I'm currently mining, and I'll keep mining until they don't let me mine anymore. But right here, I've got $500 or $600 worth. Once I get to 0.2 of an ether, then what happens is it goes directly to my primary key here on my Coinbase account. But as of now, it still works. But I think by year end, it won't need more, unfortunately. Yeah. And I learned about that from Peyton, actually, one of my amazing MBA students. Thank you, Peyton. Okay. All right, next up, I got Gregory from Europe. Gregory wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning. There is a concern that a national digital coin would make negative rates easier to implement, hurting long-term treasuries. What do you think? Yeah. So when you talk about treasuries, I'm assuming you're talking about the U.S. economy. I think that the U.S. is going to be one of the last major economies to adopt cryptocurrencies. There's when you have a monopoly, and this is fake money, but when you have a monopoly, there's really no incentive to change. I mean, this here looks the exact same as it looked back in the 1930s. This is from 1934. This bill, right? Monopolies, they don't have to change. It's too much risk for them. So I think what's going to happen is the United States is going to monitor, countries like El Salvador, which I think is being irresponsible, adopting, Bitcoin as their currency because it's too volatile. Your citizens aren't guinea pigs. And I think the U.S. is also going to monitor China closely, which is going to create a more controlled, bogus crypto that can monitor and track everything. Yeah. So in terms of hurting treasuries, I don't think it's an issue for the United States for quite a while. Yeah, but they're looking at it. Yeah. And the United States Treasury, they're actually working with MIT right now on a white paper on what a U.S.-based cryptocurrency would look like. But cryptos are the biggest threat to national security, as I mentioned before. So every major economy they're doing studies on it, but I think they'll move slowly. Yeah. All right. Next up, Mr. Nobody. Hey, it's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Wrote, hey Chris, isn't holding stocks in a personal account unsafe in terms of lawsuits or divorces? Do you recommend putting portfolio under a holding company or an LLC? Yeah. No, but the one thing I do recommend is if you're married and have kids, is you set up a trust. Okay, and you can go to LegalZoom to do it or get any lawyer to do it. You set up a will and a trust. And a trust is like a tax shelter that can get passed on to your kids. So quite often, like when I used to have a lot of investors in my offshore hedge fund, my investors were called, like the investment account they invested from was called the John and Joanne Smith Revocable Trust dated December 12, 2012, whatever. Yeah, so you can talk to a lawyer about setting up your will and estate as well as as a trust. Yeah. But lawsuits, only if you manage money for other people, then of course you want to have a lawyer set up an LLC or some sort of legal structure, master feeder structure if it's a hedge fund like I had. But your own personal ones, I don't think so. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Next up, I don't believe in prenups. It's just for me. This never comes off. Yeah. Okay. Sandium wrote, Chris, last week I asked your opinion on coffee can investing. It's an investment strategy where the first filters include 10 years of revenue growth of 10% return annually, and then over 15 years ROCE over 10 years annually. Yeah. I'm not sure what your question is. Sorry. Yeah. But I wouldn't just look at numbers. I'd look at the management team always, because the jockey is more important than the horse. Execution is more important than anything. Always look at the quality management team first before looking at any investment in general. Yeah. Okay, next up, Himanshu. Hey, Himanshu, how are you, man? It's been a while, dude. Himanshu wrote, hey, Chris, your courses are great. Thank you. I appreciate it. I started a retail business and stock trading lately. Thank you for your teaching. So you're most welcome, Himanshu. Great to see you. Fred, hey Fred, Fred's in my MBA program. He's based in Baltimore. Fred Mendoza. He said, hey everybody. And Fred, thanks again for your help with the options course recently. It's coming along well. I figured out the four-sided option that we talked about. Next time we do our call, I'll show you. It's awesome. Thanks for the feedback. All right, next up, A wrote, Chris, sir, if I'll be getting into India's top 3 undergrad college for commerce undergrad, so will I get into investment banking at Goldman Sachs if I acquire skill certifications and professional course? It's all about networking, right? Nothing is guaranteed. But if you network aggressively and find people using LinkedIn that went to your university that work at Goldman Sachs, you can set up a lot of informational meetings with them. That's the best way to do it, right? Getting into a good university doesn't guarantee you a job. You got to network aggressively, which is what I teach in my MBA program. And I have lots of students in my MBA program that have MBAs from top schools, and they tell me humbly they've learned more in a shorter amount of time from my program than they did from their top MBA schools at 1/100th of the cost or whatever it is. All right, next up, Zorlina wrote, how do you see the human species in 50 years with issues about climate change and wealth disparity? Yeah. One thing that worries me, and I opened up about this recently, is a a lot of countries are taking away certain freedoms because of COVID. And governments, once they get power, they don't like to give it up. And so I hope there's enough checks and balances in place globally that once COVID is done, that we get these damn freedoms back. And I'm passionate about talking about this because I have students from every country in the world. And I talked to a lot of my students, and a lot of them told me confidentially one-on-one, and I'll never name who they are, that they're getting beaten with sticks in many countries, for just stepping outside around curfew. And they're losing a lot of civil liberties. So one thing I love about America, and yes, we have a lot of problems here too, is that there are enough checks and balances in place, and that's how the Constitution was written or made here. There's enough checks and balances in place so that the federal government doesn't have too much power over states. And so if the government here were to try to take away freedoms, it just wouldn't work. And my favorite license plate is from the great state of New Hampshire. And on the bottom license plate, it says, "Live free or die." Yeah. And I just hope that we all call our members of parliament, MPs, or Congress people, whatever it is, once COVID is done, and ask for our civil liberties back. Yeah. And I'm a believer in freedom, obviously, and power of the individual. Am I a Republican or a Democrat? It depends who the person is around election season. I'm more of a libertarian. I believe my students can accomplish anything. Yeah. And I hate communism. Yeah. Okay. So at 50, hopefully we get our freedoms back after COVID. In terms of climate change, I'm an optimist. I am. I think there are enough companies out there that are trying to go carbon neutral. And they've set deadline dates as well, and a lot of government mandates as well. So you won't be able to have a gas-powered car in America in 50 years, that's for sure. You won't be allowed to in 10 years in certain states. Yeah. So I'm an optimist. I think we're moving in the right direction. Yeah. Wealth disparity, I think it gets more evened out. And the reason why I think wealth disparity will be less of an issue in the long run is because of cloud computing. And we can all work anywhere we want to in the world, right? And so if labor is more accessible globally, then what happens is it becomes deflationary. And, you don't have to be in a big city like New York to be the king of Wall Street or, rule the finance industry. You can be anywhere. You don't have to be in Silicon Valley to be a tech megastar. You can be anywhere. Yeah, I'm optimistic. Yeah. Next up, I got Demian. How are you? Demian, good to see you. Demian lives in Barcelona with his wife and daughter. And he is originally from Venezuela. Great guy. I talked to him earlier, so he's in my MBA program too. So Demi wrote, "Good morning, Chris. Hope you're well. Another great Thursday learning from you. Thank you. And your helpful content. Thank you. My question today, do you know any alternatives of Vanguard we can use in Europe?" Yeah. Just do a search on Vanguard alternatives in Europe. Right. There's plenty of them, I'm sure. Any large financial services institution should have this. Yeah. ABN AMRO or whatever. They all have ETFs now. All the big mutual funds. Even Fidelity has mutual funds, and Schwab. Even Fidelity has ETFs, as does Schwab and many others. Yeah, it's a competitive market, which is good because it forces commissions down. And then next up, A wrote, "I'll take part in a case competition by Harvard and Wharton and Booth, which is Chicago's MBA school, HSBC, Ernst & Young, KPMG, and Finance Investment Societies. I can get an internship with the Royal Bank of Scotland and with India's largest bank through references besides college internships at McKinsey, UBC, Barclays. I can get a Canada or Australia fintech or wealth management role at Sapient Logistics International required after an undergrad. Can I still get into Harvard, Wharton, or Stanford with this profile?" Yeah. So the best way to get into these universities, okay, it's not just about grades and GMATs or SATs or MCATs or LSATs, whatever. A lot of it is how you market yourself. And there's a great book I recommend reading before applying to any university. And it's called Marketing Yourself to the Top Business Schools. Okay? And it doesn't have to be about you writing essays for a business school. and it's written by a husband and wife team called Carpenter and Carpenter. And like with everything in business and life, you got to put yourself in the mind of the decision maker, right? And so the admissions committee, they want to diversify the student body always, right? They want people with different life experiences. And that book that I just mentioned to you will help you think that way as well when you write your essays. Yeah. And in your essays, make sure that you mention which alumni you've talked to. You can use LinkedIn to talk to alumni from those schools. It'll show you went the extra mile, and hardly anybody does that. Okay. All right. And if I miss anybody in between, just let me know, please. I know there's tons of questions just popped up here. All right. Next up, I've got David Yerman. David. David say, let's go TB12. Boston in the house. Awesome. That's right. Red Sox are ahead of us by 2 games to Jays. So you wrote, Chris, thanks for your knowledge. You were right about the next lesson, FA 1-9. It breaks down the Excel modeling way better. Thanks for that. You're most welcome. And I remember your message to me was you said that you were having some challenges understanding certain finance stuff. And I said eventually we cover that in the program, which we do. Thanks. All right, and then David wrote here, I'm 19% done the MBA course. Awesome. I hope you enjoy. And dude, I'm adding a ton more stuff this year and every year, which you'll all get for free. Always. Like I'm adding a lot of stuff on options this year, real estate next year, as well as collective bargaining and negotiations. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then somebody wrote, I'm looking at opening my own hedge fund in undergrad. Yeah. So what you want to do is my old boss, a guy named Ken Griffin, he started Citadel. He actually started that hedge fund out of his dorm room in Harvard. In 1987, he went short the market and made a fortune when the market crashed. So if you want to do a search on how Ken Griffin started his hedge fund, and that might give you inspiration. Yeah. Okay. Manas, how are you? Manas wrote, good morning, my mentor. Hope all is well. Likewise. Great to see you always, buddy. And then you wrote, a very good morning to all of you. How are you doing now? I'm always great, thanks. Always. I love doing this. I don't have a job. I have a passion. And I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being here with me. Yeah. And then you wrote, are you a little sad on whatever is going on in Afghanistan? Yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic. I don't know. I don't know if there's any way to fix it. I kind of wish that the whole world got together and put together some kind of United Nations peacekeeping effort to, have a presence, in Afghanistan for a long time, until the Taliban is obliterated. Yeah. It's terrible because it's now a hotbed for terrorism. And what scares me about Afghanistan is that there's a lot of uranium, up in the mountains there, and we know what they can use that for. Yeah. Tragic. Okay. And then Shiva wrote, hello, sir. Chris, please. Very good evening from India. A big hug to you. A big hug back at you as well. My favorite food is dosa. When I was in India, I ate at Tandoori Grill, or the Punjabi Grill, at the Delhi airport and the Mumbai airport as well. I had dosa for the first time there. I loved it. Yeah. And I eat it now, actually. There's an Indian restaurant on the corner I love. All right. Okay. And question about the most profitable and fastest growing hedge fund. If you want rewind, because I did a segment on this today about Jim Simmons from Renaissance Technologies. He has $168 billion assets under management. His gross returns since the 1980s have been over 60% every year. Net returns close to 40%. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question is from Harsh. Can you make a course on everything hedge fund managers use to make money? Like everything. Yeah. So I have a course called the Complete Financial Analyst Training Course, which covers a lot of those topics. And I'm adding much more advanced stuff with a new course of mine called the Complete Options Course, which is coming out very, very soon. Yeah. And so if you take those two, you got yourself covered. Or take my MBA program, you have much more covered as well. Yeah. All right. And then Viroxrod wrote, hey, Chris, keep up your amazing work. You're a blessing. Thank you. Chris, can you please explain what is a taper tantrum and how to prepare for it? Yeah, I don't know what a taper tantrum. I know what a temper tantrum is because I have 3 boys. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Sorry. All right, next up, Manas wrote, just a little weird question. what happened to the stock exchange on 9/11? Like, what were the effects, and how are people behaving in the United States? I'm really sorry to ask, but I want to know. I want to know that. Yeah. So what happened was after 9/11. So I worked at Goldman Sachs at the time, and I was focusing on Japanese equities then. And so 9/11, I saw the whole thing was awful. We went home, and my apartment was Upper East Side, and we weren't allowed to return to work for a week or two, whatever it was. And so what happened was the United States closed the market for about a week. But I had to actually set up, like Goldman Sachs email exchange was down, as were all communications in New York City, because the communications infrastructure was at the top of the World Trade Center. And so what I had to do that night on September 11th was a lot of my my institutional clients globally, they reached out to me, and they said, "Are you okay?" and all that stuff, of course. And then they said they want to liquidate their portfolios in Japan overnight, because Japan was open that night of September 12th, the next day. And so what I did was, using my Hotmail account at the time, I set up a trading floor in my house in the apartment, the Upper East Side, and I liquidated an insane amount of positions for my institutional investors. A lot of them were in Toronto at the time. But that's what I had to do. And then eventually the markets opened the next week in the United States. To get liquidity, though, people sold their shares overseas. Yeah. Or the equivalent shares overseas. Yeah. It was terrible. It was awful. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the market pulled back materially. And like I always try to humbly do, which is why I've done fine whatever investing. I tend to be greedy when others are fearful, and vice versa. And so the stock I made the most money on after 9/11 was Take-Two, ticker TTWO. And that's the company that makes Grand Theft Auto. And the reason I backed up the truck and bought a lot of it was because they actually had to cancel or change their earlier Grand Theft Auto game that they just released, because in the background was the Twin Towers, right? Which just wasn't cool to have that there. Part of Liberty City game, I think. And so I bought the stock. And I asked myself, in 5 years, will this company be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? I'm a big GTA fan, so I did find that way. I did find a lot of other stuff too. You always, whenever the market pulls back, you got to buy when it feels uncomfortable, and eventually you become numb to the pain of feeling uncomfortable, right? You let your emotions get out of the way completely. Because most people sell stocks at the worst time. What Warren Buffett said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Yeah. And when the VIX, ticker VIX, spikes a lot to an all-time high, I don't care what happens. You have to back up the truck, because when it comes to investing, things are never as bad as they seem. And things are never as good as they seem as well. Yeah. And I do look at some technicals. I always have. I look at fundamentals first, valuation second. But I love to look at the RSI, Relative Strength Index, when my favorite stocks are at 20, oversold. I love the feeling of catching a falling knife, meaning buying broken stocks, but not broken companies. Yeah. Okay. Next up, A wrote, Chris, sir, I'll complete my MBA program in 2 months. I'm doing it for knowledge. Awesome. I hope you enjoy. And if you have questions along the way, let me know, please. Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up, Virox Rod wrote one more question. When the short ratio is small, this means that not too many people are short in the stock, or on the contrary, is it possible a short squeeze? Yeah. So the way it works is this, and I'll show you a real example actually. So you never want to short a stock, ever, unless you're a professional investor. But the way it works is you never want to short a stock that too many people are short. And so the metric I've always looked at is a short interest ratio. And the short interest ratio means you take the number of shares that are short a stock divided by the average daily trading volume. And if that number is 10 or higher, it means too many people are short it, meaning it would take 10 days worth of trading volume in order to cover all the shorts in a company. I'll show you an example here. Everything I show you is using free software, okay, or free websites. I never want you to pay for anything, please. All right, so let's go here and we'll go to Yahoo Finance, okay? And I'll type up some random company. Okay. All right, so this company here, what you do is you go to statistics, okay, and then you scroll down and you'll find the short interest ratio. Here it is here, short ratio. Yeah. So this is pretty dangerous. So this stock here, okay, it has a short interest ratio of 12.35. And what that means is there are so many shares short that it'll take 12.4 days for everybody to cover their shorts, right? And so if there's any positive news in the stock could scream to the upside, and the shorts will have to cover. And so that's how you can tell. So the shares short are about 15 million shares, and the daily volume, and that's dated by the way, it's kind of old. The daily volume here is 1 million. Yeah. So if you take 14 million shares shorted divided by this, whatever, it's close to 12 days. It would take 12 days to cover all the shorts, which is terrifying. Yeah, it's a crowded short. Okay. All right, next up, Manas wrote, there's a war against Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse. By the way, Spaces is the same as Clubhouse, yeah. So what do you think, who's going to have the upper hand? And what are you coming on Clubhouse? Yeah, I think I'm on it. Yeah, I'm on it, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, it's tough for social media companies to change their strategy to compete with others by creating new products. So YouTube is trying to do it with their own vertical-based TikTok-like stories, right? And so there aren't that many examples of companies being able to successfully do this to take share away from the market leaders. All right, next up, Haroun wrote a similar, and the same thing, by the way, with YouTube. Like, you can post on YouTube articles and images too, like on Insta. It just hasn't worked out for them. You know, it's kind of like Google Plus. All right, and then with respect to fixed versus variable currencies, Haroun wrote a similar thing in the Middle East where currencies are pegged against the US dollar. Yeah. And one of the reasons is because whatever countries those are in the Middle East, they probably do a lot of business with the United States. Maybe it's exporting oil, I'm not sure. Yeah. All right, Manas wrote, looking so cool in that black t-shirt. I have the exact design with me. Very cool. A little bit different. I like black though. Yeah. All right. And I'm getting a bit shiny here. And so when you guys do these webcasts, I mentioned this before, first impressions are everything. You get a little bit of powder, and Christine taught me about this. Yeah, put it on just so you don't shine as much. Yeah. Makeup lessons 101 from Haroun here. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, I was reading a LinkedIn post which said that TikTok is beating YouTube in terms of popularity and viewership. It is only because TikTok is the #1 most downloaded app on iOS and the Google Store this year and last year as well. Yeah. Yeah. Do you think YouTube big videos are going to die soon? I hope shorts and reels are the future. I don't think so. I don't. I mean, there's a market for shorter videos because our attention span is non-existent these days. I'm talking about myself. But there will always be demand for YouTube videos. That's just like saying, will there never be TV shows or movies again? There will be. Yeah. All right, next up, Sanjay wrote, hey, Chris, I'm taking some of your courses. I want to get a job in the hedge fund industry as an associate. I have no work experience, literally no experience. I'm in the UK. Any possible ways to get a job? Yeah. So sign up for my MBA program. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But I teach you how to network on steroids so you can get the job of your dreams. Okay. And I also provide you with 11 brand new templates I created that you can bring to interviews or informational meetings, or you can send them as PDFs to fund managers by picking stocks. And those one pagers is all you need to do to get interviews. I think it works well, but you can't just give up after one time. You got to keep sending these things. You got to keep contacting people. You got to be like a pit bull on a pork chop. Yeah. All right. Divyang wrote, you are amazing. Thank you. God bless you. Appreciate it. Thank you. And then moving on to Sean. Sean wrote, are there any IBIS world alternatives for industry reports? Yeah. I don't rely on or recommend any industry reports at all, I always recommend doing your own research. Always, always, always. Otherwise, you get biased because everybody has a bias, right? Always. Like when these Wall Street analysts get on television and they talk about certain stocks, there's a bias. There's a bias. You know, even if like nobody is negative on Microsoft, like Wall Street analysts, ever. The reason they're not, and I know there's a Chinese wall supposed to be in place, you know, separating banking from trading. But if you're negative on Microsoft, Microsoft's not going to hire you to do banking work for you. It's kind of like when you go to a video game website like IGN and you look at the reviews of a cool new game. Why do they always say good things about Halo? You know, Halo used to be good, but it's because Microsoft's a massive advertiser. Yeah. Okay, and that's why I'll never take any sponsors at all. I want to stay true and pure to you, my student, the customer, always. Yeah. Okay. Because if Microsoft was advertised, I couldn't throw them under the bus. Yeah. But I always want to put the student first. It's not about money. Okay. All right, Manas wrote, when is the real estate course coming out? Is it coming out this quarter? No, I'm going to push it till next year. Yeah. Now, I want to do it right. I want to fly up to Canada and show the buildings I bought and stuff and just kind of make it fun. Yeah. All right. And then Sean wrote, what programming languages does Goldman Sachs of the world use for writing HFT scripts? Yeah, I think just start with Python. You're fine. Yeah. And if you're not sure if you're interested in finance and tech, I would start first with playing around with Excel and Excel macros and pivot tables and Visual Basic for applications. And if you catch the coding bug there, then I'd move on to Python. Yeah. Okay. Harsh said, from where does Jim Simmons get all the data? Yeah. You can buy data, right? You can buy data from different data services, right? You can easily do that. Yeah. Or you can set up now web crawlers, right? Which I've done a lot of in the past, where you crawl the web and you find certain data points, right? And then you look at statistical patterns. Yeah. And it's something I'll talk about in my MBA program. Now, the way the statistics is taught in school is moronic, right? It's not enjoyable. So I'm going to teach you about normal probability, the fun way, right? The way that data is set up. That's not a normal graph because I'm doing it the wrong way. And we're also going to study casinos as well. You know, casinos make it's a prop for my course. Make a fortune by analyzing statistics and probabilities. And you can make a fortune as well, but the way to do it is you have to go after singles and doubles and not try to swing for the fences, right? So, yeah, if you try to get home runs all the time, what happens is you'll never make money. Right? You got to kind of be long-term focused and do little bets here and there, and that's what options writing is all about, right? And complex option strategies like vertical spreads and iron condors, etc. And I'm going to teach all that stuff in my course, but I'm going to make it fun and engaging. And the way I'm going to be teaching this also is I'm going to build on it one brick at a time. Because when I took when I studied options at Columbia University, where I did my MBA in finance, I humbly got the top grade in the class, but I didn't really get it, right? I didn't really thoroughly understand and enjoy it. I'm going to teach it in a different way. So we're going to build, one brick at a time, right? We're going to learn the basics of options and stocks and shorting, and eventually you're like, oh my God, I can do this. And I know you guys think I'm crazy, but now you're going to think I'm really crazy. And the bigger picture will be, I get it. Like I'm going, this is big Lego brick, obviously. I'm going overboard with props to teach options the right way, and in a really fun and engaging way as well. And when you buy, and this is another prop from the course, but when you buy a stock, right, you get one share of a stock. You buy one stock. When you buy options, every option you buy is 100 shares. Okay. And so I'm going overboard with this. It'll make more sense as you watch the watch the course. And if you don't thoroughly understand and enjoy options, you'll get your money back, as is the case with all my courses. You guys don't want to see the floor here, man. There's just too many props. But it's fun. Okay. And then Harsh said, can we make computers like Jim Simmons? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, 15 or 20 years ago, when I did a lot of research on his company, and my boss, Carson's a big investor there, Carson Levitt, my mentor, at the time. He had several thousand Linux servers running in parallel. Now, the cost of computing is dropping materially, and you can actually rent space on Amazon Web Services, right? You can use data warehouses on AWS for next to nothing, and the price keeps falling. Amazon has cut the pricing point on AWS 100 times since they launched it in late 2005. Yeah, so anybody can do it. Yeah. Okay, and give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Hold on a second. Okay, cool. All right, next up, Sean wrote, is it possible to make money from buying and selling warrants? Yeah. I mean, yeah, but you kind of have to think of it like you're an investment banker, right? Do the underwriting on it. I bought warrants. The first warrants I bought were on a company called Spectral Diagnostics, which was one of my first venture capital investments when I was a kid. I found this company, and I remember I had shares that converted using warrants. Yeah, but as the investment bankers actually have to create that product. Yeah. If you want to create products to sell, I think more about writing options. Yeah, and if you are going to write options and use that, what you have to do is you have to experiment a lot first by using free software and create a paper portfolio like I showed you earlier today. So download Thinkorswim, which is the best options trading software out there. It's free to use, and you can create a paper portfolio. If you're in a country where you can't download it, get a VPN, then you can. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Divyang wrote, I'm a software engineer. Cool. What is the starting point about learning about investing? Yeah. And in Silicon Valley, there's this saying that it's always easier for an engineer to learn finance than it is for a finance person to learn engineering. Both are doable, of course. What I would do is I would start out by taking my complete financial analyst course, right? So go to my website and then you could search for it there, or go to Udemy and just search for me and my complete financial analyst course. Yeah. Because I teach it based on my real life experience, and I started out as a software programmer as well at Accenture years ago, and I made the transition to finance. Yeah, you got to be a voracious reader though of annual reports and all that stuff, and you have to enjoy it, otherwise you won't be good at it. Yeah, it's a stressful business if you don't love it. Yeah. Okay. Next up, James wrote. My brother's name is James too. I love my brother. James wrote, good morning, Chris. Good morning, chat, and fellow Haroun MBA students. Great to see you, James. Thank you. My brother's a doctor. We used to call him Dr. J. And Abhishek said, present, sir. Good to see you. Hassan said, hi, I'm Hassan. What do I need to join? Yeah. If you mean joining the MBA program, just go to my website, harounventures.com. Anybody can sign up. And my goal is to make education accessible for everybody at a very, very low price. Yeah. With 30-day money-back guarantees on all my products. Yeah. And there's no barriers to entry. You don't even need a high school degree. Yeah. I'm very much at war with educational elitism. Yeah. And a lot of these people that get in these great schools like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, whatever it is, if you peel back the onion, you'll find out that, there's a chance that one of their parents went there or their aunts or uncles, whatever it is, and that's kind of like a caste-based system. It's just not fair. Yeah. And I think that in my lifetime, only 50 universities will exist. I think what's going to happen is most will go bankrupt because it's a waste of money, or it can be at least. It's 4 years, $100,000. 13 hours of class per week, and you don't learn jack that you can apply in the real world unless you do a specialized degree like a medical degree. Yeah. My favorite charity is called Doctors Without Diplomas, though. I got that from Zach Galifianakis once. Sorry, it's funny. All right. Next question is it the right time to invest in China? Never. So for me, I've done it. I've invested there, and I've lost money, and I've been seduced by cheap valuations, 2 or 3 times earnings estimates, but it's bogus. It's bogus. And the way it works is in order to take a Chinese company and put it, or any international company and put it on the U.S. markets, you have to adhere to certain strict accounting laws. But for some reason, the U.S. government doesn't really uphold that with a lot of Chinese companies because, U.S. is a big trading partner of China. But I just don't trust all of the accounting. I just don't. And also, like, I think a better place to invest instead of Hong Kong, for example, is Singapore. Because China is now, they're moving back towards communism, right? And if it's an unstable government from a capitalist perspective, what's the point? In the United States, it's unfortunate, but some companies are too big to fail. In China, you're now too big to succeed. And Jack Ma he's terrified of what the Chinese government's doing to him. Even the Chinese government recently, they cracked down on ed tech companies, right? It's ridiculous. So anyway, y'all know I'm a capitalist, but I don't believe in investing in communist countries. Unless they're going from communism slowly towards capitalism. But for the first time in my life, they've gone back the other way. Yeah. When I was born, President Nixon was, he went to China, and since then, China is going from capitalism to communism. It's a beautiful thing. Slowly over time, COVID happened, and now they're going backwards. And it's not just with cracking down on companies and foreign direct investment. It's also other things like cryptocurrencies. They're creating their own crypto to track everybody. They already have facial recognition software to recognize hundreds of millions of people in China. And also there's a law that came out last week or the week before that stipulates that if you're under 18, you're not allowed to play video games during the week, and only like 1 or 2 hours on weekends. And that's just cruel. It's cruel because with COVID, a lot of us are stuck at home, and the only way that you socialize with your buddies is on gaming. And a lot of families in China, they don't really have the one child per family policy. They've increased it to 3 now. But a lot of families have just one kid, and not allowing your kids to socialize because it's just not fair. It's just not fair. Yeah. So, and that's why I'm a huge fan of Starlink. And I did a vlog on this recently. You can go to my website, Haroun Ventures, do a search on Starlink. And I talked about how Elon Musk is my favorite freedom fighter because he's going to make internet accessible to everybody in the world. He's already got 1,900 satellites in space for Starlink, which gives you internet access in 14 countries. Soon, he's going to have tens of thousands of them up there. He's going to spin it off from SpaceX soon and make it an IPO, Starlink. And then the invisible hand of capitalism will allow everybody to get access to free internet longer term. And, Elon Musk was asked, what about rogue nations or countries that are dictatorships? If they say, no, you can't allow people in my country to get, free access to the internet, what would you do then? You'd say, I don't know, let them raise their fist at the satellites in the air. Yeah. So my answer is no about China. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, how many people work with you? Yeah. So I don't have any full-time employees. The way I've set it up is I set up as an S corporation, but I do have a lot of employees, so to speak, that are contractors all over the place as well. I treat them well. I give generous bonuses as well. I cut my teeth on Wall Street, believing that base salary should be decent, but bonus should be bigger in the long run. So it's just how I work. And so in terms of, I'll tell you everybody. So I've got Matt Lacousse, who I made a partner in my firm. Matt is he's my chief creative officer. I've got Doug, who works with Matt and I. And Matt is based in Iowa. That's where his girlfriend is. And I've got Doug just outside of Toronto in a place called Collingwood. Helps out with coding stuff. Great guy. I've got Joey, who heads up sales and marketing in Toronto as well. Awesome guy. I love him. He's my brother. I've got one of my students I met on this weekly call as well. He helps out a lot. Named John Clee. I met him on this weekly call. I hired him. Yeah. Who else do I have? I don't want to leave anybody out. Daniil, who's my former TA when I taught in MBA schools, and a bunch of others. I outsource everything. Yeah. Okay. And I let my employees work from anywhere in the world as well. Yeah. There's no office. Because if the internet was invented before offices wouldn't exist. or not as many offices. Okay, next up, Abhishek Shihan wrote here, hey, Chris, how do we access the free networking book that you mentioned, please? Yeah, sure. And the reason I didn't show you is because I got people complaining that I was mentioning it too much. And that's why I don't mention it anymore, because I don't want to piss people off. But this is how I got an insane number of email addresses. Yeah, and you always have to give away a carrot to get it. So to get a email address, so you go to my website, Haroun Education Ventures, right here, or Haroun Education, same thing. And then you scroll down. Here it is here, yeah. And then you fill this out here, and you'll get an email link. And then you just download it there. Yeah. And you can always click on unsubscribe if you don't want to be on my email list as well. Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right, hold on. Sorry, guys. Hold on a second. Okay, cool. Okay, next up, Manas wrote, congrats on your milestone. Thank you. God bless you, my mentor. Thank you. Your dreams came true, and your daddy would be happy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And my dad, yeah, he saw it as well, which is pretty cool. Thanks. The New York Times article. Yeah. Oh, Mark, how are you? Mark Vincent Besa. So Dr. Mark graduated from my MBA program last year. He's a doctor in the Philippines. Great guy. He used the social media stuff I teach in the program. He writes a lot on LinkedIn. And what happened was the World Health Organization reached out to him because of his amazing articles and offered him a job, which he turned down. Is based in Somalia. But Mark wrote here, hi, Chris. Hope all is well. Love being on board here. Thank you, Mark. Great to see you, bud. Thank you. And I want to show you guys Mark here. He's got, because we can all learn from him in terms of how to write articles, right? And it doesn't matter if a lot of people read them or not, right? All you need is one or two important people to read them. Look at me trying to navigate and having a problem here. Okay, so let's go here to Mark Vincent. Here you go, Dr. Mark. I'll make it bigger for y'all to see. Yeah. This is textbook how you make an amazing LinkedIn profile. Good looking guy too. Yeah, but he writes a lot as well, and a lot of people have noticed what he's written as well. So he's wonderful. Great to see him, Mark. Always. All right. Next up, Abhishek wrote, Ray Dalio cut his portfolio from the S&P 500 by approximately 37%. Does it indicate a small correction will come? Yeah, so for those of you not familiar with Ray Dalio, he runs the largest hedge fund in the world in Connecticut called Bridgewater. And he's been pretty bearish on the markets for quite a while now. Yeah. And I've had friends that have worked there. It's a tough place to work. The turnover of employees is over 40% every year. And what happens is that every single meeting is recorded there. Every single meeting, okay, every conversation, everything. Okay, there's microphones everywhere, except when you're in the washroom. It's true, right? So it's kind of, I don't know, that environment wouldn't work for me. Yeah. In terms of indicating there's a small correction, is it going to come? Yeah. I promise you the market is going to pull back eventually. But that's just like saying, two things are going to happen to me in my life. One day I'll die and I will pay taxes. So you can't time markets. It's impossible, dude. It's impossible. And my former boss, God bless me, passed away recently from pancreatic cancer. Art Sandberg, he started Pequot, which is the largest tech hedge fund in the world years ago. But I remember in 2006, we were pitching shorts to Art Sandberg when I was at Pequot. And the thesis was, there's a housing bubble. And so we were talking about shorting, ticker KBH Homes and Lennar, ticker LEN. And our thesis was, well, they're expensive and, there's a real estate bubble. And he stopped us, mid-pitch. And he said, son, I've been around long enough to understand never to stand in the way of insanity. Markets peak, markets trough. You just can't time it, though. And so what we would do is we'd wait until the market corrected 10% or so, then we jump on the shorts. Yeah. You can't time these things. It's impossible. And usually what happens is a black swan event. A black swan is a rare event. A black swan event like a 9/11 or something else will cause the market to the bubble to burst. You can't forecast timing though. Yeah. And the market can stay irrational longer than we can stay solvent, which is why I love to be a long-term investor. And, I'm greedy when others are fearful and vice versa. Yeah. I'm not really buying stocks right now. I'm doing other things. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Lionel. Hey, Lionel, how are you, man? Lionel wrote, good afternoon, Chris. How are you? I'm great. Hope you're doing well. I published my book on Amazon just now using your template. Thank you. See you soon for the MBA course. Awesome, dude. I'm proud of you, man. I'm happy for you. I'm going to go there and buy it right now. Let's go there together, guys. All right, so I'm going to go to Amazon. Okay. And I will do a search. I always support my students. Lionel Olivier. Okay. And then if I'm typing it wrong, Olivier, it's a book, right? So let me go here. Let me do a search on your name here. What you can do is you can highlight, then you do Control F, and let's see if it comes up. Yeah, I don't see it here. If I'm not doing the right search, let me know, please. Yeah, thanks. Because I want to order it and support you. Yeah, thanks. It's a good feeling though, eh? All right, cool. And if it's not up now, but it'll be next week, send me a message again here live so I can buy it and support you. Thanks. All right, next up, Abhishek wrote, what would you want to say as world debt is increasing at a massive rate? Yeah. So there's been, since the 1980s, people have been saying, the U.S. economy is going to default and all this debt is not sustainable, right? People have been saying that forever. But you got to think about who are the owners of this debt. So the U.S. is too big to fail. And China owns a lot of U.S. debt. And China is reliant on the United States because it's their biggest export partner. American consumers buy a lot of Chinese stuff. And so China, they have to keep buying our debt, America's debt. It is what it is. And people don't realize that, well, of course, the U.S. economy is the largest economy in the world, but people don't realize that 2/3 of the United States economy is consumer spending. And so the Chinese government, they're very much reliant. They don't like it, but they're very much reliant as of now on the U.S. consumer. And the Chinese government is building up their own internal marketplace so that they're more reliant on internal consumption instead of U.S. consumption. It's longer term. It's what they're focused on. And so debt is all relative, right? China can't, they have to support U.S. debt because of globalization. Everyone's attached at the hip. Yeah. Okay. And countries should not be run like a business. It doesn't work that way, right? And the way that the Federal Reserve was set up 8 million years ago or a long time ago is that the United States knew that if they can get access to cheap credit and sell bonds all over the world, then the U.S. economy can grow. Yeah, and this is still the U.S. dollar, and this is fake money, but the U.S. dollar is still, it's still the flight to quality globally. It is what it is. It won't be that way forever, but as of now, it is. And so, as long as there's demand for U.S. debt, the U.S. will be able to print more debt. And I know it seems really irresponsible, and yeah, it is. It's gotten a little bit out of hand. But it's whenever you build financial models and you're valuing companies, and you look for the risk-free rate, people always use the U.S. Treasury. The rate, the lowest risk investment in the world is U.S. dollar. Yes, there's a lot of debt, but it's too big to fail. Yeah. Famous last words. Okay. Anurag said, good to see you, Chris. Good to see you too. Thanks for the emoji. Okay. And then Maz wrote, you're talking to one of my other students. Cool. All right. Divyang wrote, I'm your student and I bought all your courses on startups and business in Udemy. Thank you so much. I love them all. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. And remember, you can get your money back as well. And I never look at who asked for their money back. So please, if it's not helpful, vote with your wallet. Thank you. Okay, next up I got Andre. Hey, Andre. Andre is saying, hello, Chris. Should I invest in coffee bean companies in Brazil because of the drought? What are your thoughts? Yeah, I can't. It's so hard for me to say. Like what I do in my MBA program is I provide my students with lots of arrows in their quiver or tools in their toolbox, so to speak, and a lot of templates so you can decide as well. Yeah, and so my humble goal is to teach you how to fish instead of providing you the fish. Yeah. Okay. NRX said, which of your corporate job roles did you enjoy the most? Yeah. Probably when I worked at Goldman Sachs. Yeah. Because I felt like I was drinking water out of a fire hose. Like I was learning so much. There's a ton of IPOs going on. It was fascinating. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Yeah. And there's good people I work with too. Yeah. All right. And Goldman doesn't hire the smartest people. That's why they hired me. But they do hire people that get along. Like there's 40 or 50 interviews you have to go through to get in there. It's not an intelligence test. It's basically a test of, can you get along with other people? You know, and because we all know that one bad apple, destroys the whole damn bunch. One jerk on a team can destroy the corporate culture and productivity. Yeah. And at Goldman, you make less money in other banks too. It is what it is. Yeah. So David wrote, Chris, if we won't have gas-powered cars in 50 years, then what will happen to the classic car market where autos get bought and sold for multi-millions? Yeah, yeah. I think that antiques will always exist. Like the baseball card market, and this is a replica. This is the T206. This is worth $5 million if it was sold in a good condition today. It's we have to understand that this market was created by the cigarette companies, and then after a while, and the reason why baseball cards were in cigarettes packages is because old cigarette packages were soft and they could bend, right? The cigarettes in your pocket. These actually made the cigarettes not bent. So this is an old collectible. And although the government, it's regulated and there's no way the government would allow cigarette companies to sell baseball cards because kids collect them, these are still antiques. So I think that even if you're not allowed to make gas-powered cars in the future, people will still buy the antiques, the older versions, like the older Aston Martins, etc. from the last James Bond movie. Yeah. All right, next up, Justin said, hey, Chris. Hey, man. How are you, bud? Okay, and then Pro wrote, much enjoyed the money market topic. Thanks, Chris. I think you have a student for your options course. Thank you. I appreciate that. It should be fun. Should be fun. It's the most ambitious course I've ever made. Yeah. Yeah. And NRI wrote, Dear Chris, if one was to choose between higher education degrees versus a practical skill-based course, which one would add higher value in the long run for career growth? Yeah. The only reason I think you should consider, going to a traditional university is if you've set up 1,000 networking meetings and you still can't change jobs. And I know you're thinking, Chris, that's an exaggeration. 1,000? And my mom would say to me, Chris, I told you 1,000,000 times not to exaggerate. But the reason I say 1,000 is because think of each informational meeting that you get as costing you $100. And so if you do 1,000 informational meetings to try to change careers, 1,000 meetings times $100 is $100,000. Well, if you go and get an MBA from a traditional school or an undergraduate degree from a traditional school, it's going to cost you $100,000. And so the only reason I think that you should get a degree is if you've tried really, really hard to network, to get the job of your dreams or whatever it is, and you can't do it without getting that degree first. Now, obviously, in certain professions, you must go to university. Like if you want to become a doctor, for example. Yeah. So those are my humble thoughts. All right. But with online courses, you can get there's a money back guarantee, like 30 days. You can't get that with universities. And my MBA degree program, I'm going to be offering a sale just for tomorrow if you join me on tomorrow's webcast. My MBA degree program, the cost is what it costs for 1 hour to go to a large business school. And I will be doing one of the last sales on it tomorrow. So if you're interested for tomorrow's event, what you can do is just go to my website here. Okay, just go to Haroun Education, and then just click right here to register for tomorrow's event. Yeah. Okay. All right, next question is from Alex. Hey, Alex wrote, hey, Chris, how can I start calculating and predicting the inflation rates in my home country of Costa Rica? Yeah. So governments, they issue inflation reports every month or so. So just do a search on government report on inflation in Costa Rica. Or what you can do is you can go to the IMF's website, just do a search on IMF, or the World Bank's website. Right, and they have tons of data there, a massive database you can use for free to track in almost real time inflation in every country on the planet. Yeah. Next up, Harsh wrote, what's the difference between an LLC and a C Corp? Yeah. So what happens is a lot of startups start out as LLCs. An LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation, which means that your liabilities are limited. So somebody can't sue you and come after you and your family unless you do something criminal. But there's certain rules that only a certain number of people can own an LLC. And so as you grow your company, if you want to go public, then you change to a C Corp, which can have many more owners of the company. Yeah. I'm currently set up as an S Corp. I've got a little bit more complex international tax structure with my companies, my umbrella company and stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit different. Okay. Next question is, what do you think about Solana? I don't have any thoughts, sorry. I can't add value there, but I'll do research on it for you. Next up, Dinesh. Hey, Dinesh. Dinesh wrote, hello, Chris. What do you think about Fortnite versus the Apple situation? And also Apple not allowing Microsoft to release Xbox Play Pass on the App Store. Is Apple abusing its powers? Thanks. Yeah. When it comes to Microsoft, a little bit less so, because Microsoft is part of that oligopoly. But I think what Apple has done to Fortnite is not fair. It's not fair. And there's actually been a workaround, right? Recently, you're allowed to go through the App Store and subscribe to services on other websites, right? Instead of going through Apple. And so antitrust is kind of taking a look at Apple, and Apple's kind of backed off a bit. So yeah. And the problem is, though, with the Apple App Store and Google Play, is that they're oligopolies. Right, and they have too much market power, and that's why you'll notice. Like, remember when the App Store first came out, or when the iPhones first came out in 2007? There were so many awesome games, and basically innovation died by like 2013 or so. And I was so excited, man. Every week there's a new game I play with my kids, like Where's My Water, Angry Birds, Field Runners 1, Field Runners 2. Oh, I love those games. And then innovation died. And there hasn't been really that many great creative new games, right? It's kind of stagnant, the Apple Store and even the Google Android Store. And it's because, Apple, especially Apple, they've used their monopoly power, so to speak, to put in your face or on your screen their products, like their own video game subscription service for $5 a month. That's not fair. What about everybody else trying to create games on your platform as well? Same thing with Apple Music. That's not fair. Like, what about Spotify? Isn't competition good for the consumer? And so I think that antitrust is going to put pressure on Google and Apple to open up their app stores as well, so that anybody can compete. Yeah. But in terms of Microsoft, it's a little bit of a different story because they have a lot of market power already. But I think what's going to happen with Xbox, and I think Microsoft is the best positioned company in the video game sector longer term. I don't have the new Xbox. I have the PS5 because there's no proprietary games I want to play on the Xbox yet. Maybe Gears of War, I don't know. But with Xbox, what's going to happen is, Xbox is going to turn into a streaming service, and eventually Xbox's app is going to be on all Samsung TVs and televisions any TV. So you'll be able to play your game in the cloud on your Xbox or the Xbox app on a television or on your computer. Right? And so longer term, Microsoft is going to leverage their cloud computing platform called Azure to make Xbox a subscription-based powerhouse globally. And Apple will have to concede and allow Microsoft's app to be there eventually. They have to. They have to. Kind of like how Apple's app is for their television app is now on a lot of TVs, right? You don't have to just buy the Apple, the Apple television to get access to it. Yeah. All right. And moving on to Sean. Sean wrote, would you ever make a course on how to write great responses to RFPs? And so RFPs stands for Request for Proposals. It's something you see in the consulting industry. And so when I worked at Accenture, the Canadian government had a request for a proposal on how to make Canada Post better. And so all the big consulting firms responded to that, and it was the most boring contract I've ever been on. But when it comes to RFPs, I kind of have it. I mean, I teach how to write a lot of business documents. I don't know if I'd ever make something that specific, though. Yeah. And when I make courses and content, it's kind of like starting a business. I always think about a massive total addressable market. Right? You never start a company in a tiny market, because if you get a big share of that, it doesn't matter. And so the RFP market for courses is quite small. Yeah. But I do teach a lot about consulting and general valuation and business analysis, because it's a bigger market. Yeah. Okay, next up, Nabisa wrote, Chris, give us advice on risk on starting a business. Yeah. So the most important thing I'll say is that, humbly, is that failing to plan is planning to fail. And most people don't write a business plan before starting a company. And that's terrifying. It's terrifying because it's one of the most important decisions you'll make in your life, business life. And if you don't do it correctly, it can destroy your net worth, it can destroy your family, your health, etc. And so I always recommend writing a business plan first. And in my MBA program, I have this pretty long venture capital boot camp in the third semester. But I have a much shorter version of that called the Complete Business Plan course that you can take as well. Just go to my website, or you can see the link here. Yeah. And the way you know that you have a good business model is if you finish the business plan. Because I've written a ton of business plans I've never finished. And it's a nice filter as well to stop you from making a mistake. Yeah. So from a risk management, personal liability perspective, write that full business plan first, please. Because, and what I do in my MBA program in the Venture Capital Bootcamp in semester 3 is I ask you like an insanely high number of questions. During class, you'll write the answers. And those questions are made so that you analyze and slice and dice. You look at your business model from every different dimension, qualitative, quantitative, etc. And while doing that process with me, if you convince yourself it's not a good business model, I've done my job. Now, I'm an optimist, as you know, but I'm also a realist. I want to make sure that my students never spend a penny starting any company unless it's rock solid. And I teach how to start companies in my MBA degree program without putting a penny down. I don't want you to ever use your own money unless you have a little bit you want to use. I don't know. Yeah. But I believe in outsourcing everything and setting up a business plan to the extent that your business is infinitely scalable. Yeah. All right. All right. Next question I've got here. A little bit chilly in here. Next question I've got is from Tyrell, who wrote, and I'm smiling because I'm thinking of one of my favorite movies, Blade Runner. There's a Tyrell Corporation in it. So Tyrell, who's got the best name ever, wrote, you mentioned templates and networking techniques for getting jobs. These are included in the MBA program. Anywhere to get these without doing the MBA program now? To get all of the most important ones, whatever, just sign up for the MBA program. Yeah. And you get your money back if you don't like it. Yeah. All right. And give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. So what happens sometimes is when I get a ton of questions, it actually jumps on me. And so, I'll do a search for Tyrell. Coolest name ever. That's how I'll find it. Tyryr. Here we go. Good. Okay, next up, Anurag wrote, would you recommend options trading for long-term wealth creation, or is it more speculation and lottery? Yeah. So the long-term side of it, you can do it's something called leaps. Okay, and so if you wanted to invest, let's say, I'll show you quickly. So if you were really bullish, meaning positive, when you love a company, you're bullish. Think of the bulls running in Pompano. and when you're really bearish, you're negative. Just think of the remnant, that opening scene of the movie. Scary. So let's go together to Yahoo Finance, finance.yahoo.com. Okay. And let's just type in Tesla. Let's say that you're really, really bullish on Tesla and you want to express that bullish position through an options position. Then what you do is you click here on options. Okay. And then you select the June 16th, 2023. Okay. And options always expire on Fridays. Okay. It's just the way it's set up. So 2 years from now, whatever, almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. We look here at the Tesla calls. And the way the options work is you can either buy calls or puts. And calls means you invest this much money. And if the stock goes down, you just lose this. If the stock goes up, you make a lot. Puts is the opposite. You invest this much money to bet the stock's going to go down. If it goes up, you lose this much. If it goes down, you make money. So to be a long-term investor using calls, options, we can look at the longest expiration date versus today, almost 2 years out. And this is called a leap, which is a long-term option. And so what we can do is you can buy options. So let's say, and let me see what Tesla's at. So up here you see Tesla's at 755 right now. So anything that's for calls at 750 or below means it's in the money. Okay, and that's why it's shaded blue. So if I thought that Tesla was going to go up a lot, right? Let's say that I thought Tesla was going to be, I don't know, $5,000 per share in 2 years. Then I could buy any option I want. So I could buy this one here. Okay, this here is the 1,000 strike price. And what that means is, what that means is I would pay $367, okay, times 100, to have the right to be able to buy 100 shares of Tesla at $1,000 in a year and a half. That's the puts, actually. Sorry, down here. All right, let me do that again. All right, so I would pay. Let me grab it again here. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. So the 1,000 strike. So if I believe that Tesla would be worth a hell of a lot more than $1,000 by 2023, then what I can do is I could actually buy. Hold on a second here. Right here, I could pay $130 times 100. Okay, so that would cost me $13,000 to be able to buy, to have the option. That's why I call it option. I would pay $13,000 to have the option to buy 1,000 shares of Tesla at a price of 1,000, or to buy 100 shares of Tesla at a strike of 1,000. Okay, so that means that I could buy $100,000 worth of Tesla at $1,000. And the reason I want to do that in 2 years is if the price of Tesla goes up to 5,000, hey, that's a great arbitrage opportunity. I can buy, I spent $100,000, buy 100 shares at $1,000, and sell immediately for $500,000, $400,000 profit. But in order to do that, I would have to pay $130, okay, times 100, because these things are in lots of 100. So I'd pay $13,000 for the opportunity to be able to buy, if I wanted to, 100 shares of Tesla at $1,000. That's 100 grand in 2 years. Okay, that's how it works. And there's a lot more to it, and that's why the way I'm teaching, as I showed you guys before, is I'm using a lot of Lego bricks, smaller ones too, to teach all this stuff, one step at a time, because there is a hell of a lot to this. But I'm teaching it in a way that's fun and engaging, and you'll like it, you'll learn it, or your money back. Yeah. All right. So that's the only kind of option to look at. Aside from that, options are a bit more short-term focused, where if you sell options, which I'll teach you how to do, you collect a premium. And there's only a certain amount of money you can lose if you structure trades the way I'm going to teach you. It gets complicated because what I showed you was just one call. But if we set up 4 calls or 4 puts and long and short them at the same time, that's called an iron condor. Okay, and it's there's a hell of a lot to it. I don't want to bore the hell out of you guys, but I'll show you if you actually want to play around with this stuff, what you can do. And let me go up here to my top monitor. is you can download Thinkorswim. That's Dylan. Okay, I'm doing screen sharing up above. Hold on a second. But I'm going to show you what software product to get. Okay, so it's called Thinkorswim. Up here, let me go here. Here it is here. Yeah. So what you can do is you can download Thinkorswim and you select whatever option you want it to be. Right. So if I go up here to Tesla, and this is going to look complicated to a lot of people. Okay, but don't worry. I teach all this stuff from scratch, and I type the right tickers as well when I teach it. So that same trade I just showed you, what we do here is we go out to the farthest dated contract here, which is going to be the 1,000. Okay, so you scroll all the way down. Let me just get it on the right side here. Drag this down. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay, good. Yeah. So we go all the way down to the June 23rd. Okay, and that's when I showed you Yahoo Finance, right here. Okay. And then what we do is we select the strike price of 1,000, which is right here. Okay, and it's $125, right? 130, 120 bucks is the ask. And so what you can do is you can buy a single option. Okay, and so that's going to be it's going to cost you $13,000 to buy this. So I'll confirm and send. And you see right here it says $13,000. Okay, roughly. Okay, so that's the cost. All right, and that's the max loss. The most I can lose is that amount. Right, the most I can make is infinite if the stock goes up way above that. I click send, and then I buy. Okay, now this here, and it got confirmed. Now this here is actually, it's simulated. So when you log into Thinkorswim, it's simulated. And what you can also do is you can do more complex stuff, like buy here an iron condor. And so an iron condor is 4 different sides of a trade, long or short, calls and puts. And I discuss all this stuff in more detail in my options course, which is coming out very soon. And I take all those Lego bricks and I teach it one step at a time. And I promise you'll have this incredible aha moment. You'll enjoy it. It'll all make sense, or your money back. Yeah. All right. And the good thing about doing these webcasts is I can always monitor in real time how many people are on the call. And I've only got 40 people here, so I probably bored a bunch of people to tears there. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, moving on to. All right. Justin wrote, "Hey Chris, new here. Good to see you, Justin. You wrote, I'm so excited. I want to hear more from you. Thank you. I noticed that iOS starts to give us the option to not share data with Facebook and Instagram. That's a beautiful thing. And Apple has had this contentious relationship with Facebook for a number of years now. Yeah, and so Apple doesn't trust Facebook, neither do I. And I think Apple's an ethical company. Yeah. And I choose not to share data with anybody now if I have that option. Yeah, it's kind of like with cookies, you have the option. It's now with data sharing. Yeah, and good for Apple for doing that. Yeah. And Divian wrote, last question, in case. Any advice on seed funding for a startup? Yeah. So I think it's easier to raise money from high net worth people than it is from venture capital firms. Never go to venture capital firms right away. Talk to high net worth people, because when you talk to a single decision maker, the sales cycle is short. Venture capital firms or institutional investors can take months, sometimes years to decide, whereas high net worth investors can decide within a few weeks. And I teach in my MBA degree program, how to raise money and how to network on steroids, so you can raise money and always use OPM, other people's money, not the drug. And I don't want you to use too much of your own money. I want you to raise money from others, not banks, but just high net worth investors, because I don't want you to be stressed at home. I want you to enjoy your life as you build this business. Yeah, unless you have a ton of money already. All right. And whenever you're trying to raise money, from experience, and I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career, humbly. But what happens is if somebody tells you how much money they're going to invest, cut it in half. Because the last second, people usually, it's just, it is what it is. All right, next up, I've got Han, who wrote Han. And Han, my kids, okay, so I got 3 boys. And the youngest one, we were going to call him Luke. And these 2 boys, the older boys, threw a fit They said, I don't want baby brother to be named Luke. I want to be named Han Solo, which was a pretty dope name. So he's Dylan now, not Luke. But your name is Han. You got a dope name. So Han wrote, I'm taking your course on Udemy. It's a great course. Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the support. Moving on to Justin wrote, Android is now giving us the option to stop charting data with Facebook too. Awesome. Since 98% of Facebook's global revenue was generated from advertising. Yeah. And then your question is, how is this going to affect Facebook's group income? And how do you think Facebook will do to overcome this? Again, thank you. Yeah. Great question. So it's terrible for Facebook. Good. But this, and what I'm about to say is going to freak you out. This is crazy. Over 40% of people on the planet, use at least one Facebook app every single month. That's how damn dominant this company has become. You know, there's other ways to do it. Like for a lot of the Facebook advertising actually is not on mobile, right? Because mobile, it's basically a smaller footprint. You know, you have less real estate to advertise, except for sponsored stories that are videos. So a lot of the Facebook advertising that I pay for, shamefully, is on desktop, right? And you can select what platforms you want to advertise on as well. And the reason I say shamefully is because I've tried to avoid Facebook, right? But I don't do personal stuff on Facebook anymore. But it's just so damn compelling, the advertising, right? It's a better way to advertise than using, Google ads or YouTube ads or LinkedIn ads, which is a loser investment. I discovered the hard way. Better than LinkedIn or Twitter ads, etc. Facebook ads are unbelievable, right? The return on investment. Yeah. All right. And I think Facebook will eventually they'll be broken up. They will be. The problem is the Department of Justice in the United States is trying to break up tons of tech companies at the same time. I think they should just go after Facebook as a way to say F you for the elections. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And I do think that Apple and Google are ethical companies, relatively speaking. I do. Especially Google. It's in their S1 document when they did their IPO roadshow in 2004. I remember it well. Larry and Sergey did this whole Dutch auction IPO thing that pissed off a lot of hedge funds, including the one I worked at. But as part of that, they said, don't be evil. And it's how much I despise communism. So Sergey Brin was born in Russia, and he decided in January 2011 to pull Google out of China. That takes guts to do that, 'cause that's a big market, right? But he did it because of, censorship. Good for him. And so I think the U.S. government is kind of giving Google a bit of a hall pass in terms of not breaking them up yet. But it's just a matter of time because, Google owns the two biggest search engines in the world. Google, of course, and YouTube. And it's highly illogical that the U.S. government hasn't broken them up yet. But I think they're a good corporate citizen, and I think that's why they've kind of got a bit of a hall pass. But it's coming, which is one of the reasons why they rebranded themselves years ago as Alphabet. Right, which is going to be a holding company for YouTube, Google, etc. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Dinesh wrote, for a startup that might be international markets as it grows like a social media app, how does legal things like the company name, trademark, etc. work? Yeah. So the way it works is as follows. So in the late 1980s, the top 100 countries in the world got together, in Madrid, in Spain. And they all said to each other, if you honor my copyrights and trademarks and patents, I'll honor your copyright, trademarks, and patents. And so that became known as the Madrid Protocol. So that your intellectual property, if you register in your country, can be registered in other countries as well. There's a lot of exceptions though. And I'm not a lawyer. I recommend talking to a real lawyer first. And I know this because I've registered all my stuff, copyright, trademark, etc., in the United States and many other countries as well. And I talked to a lot of international lawyers about it. And I started doing this in 2016. And I remember at the time, I just couldn't do the United Kingdom because of Brexit. There was no legal precedent. Talk to a lawyer first. Go to LegalZoom.com if you want to. As you all know, I'm not sponsored by anybody, nor will I ever be. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then Parsh wrote, your courses on Udemy are awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Cool. And then Lionel, who just published his book, which I am going to buy and profile here in the air. He wrote, it should be live within 24 hours, Chris. Okay, cool. So Lionel, remind me next week during this webcast so I can buy it in front of everybody and support you. Yeah. Okay. And then Lionel wrote, or David Yerman wrote, Lionel, congratulations on your book. Great job. And I agree. David wrote, are there any MBA program students in Boston? Let's link. Yeah, there definitely are. Absolutely. And so if you're in the on-demand version of the MBA program, the silver one, what you can do is recently I added at the end of the first section, a link for you to join Slack, right? And tons of people have already signed up. They're networking that way. It's a free way to network by students, free forever. Moving on to Harsh. Harsh wrote, what skills do I need to build those computers? Yeah. And this is with respect to creating your own hedge fund, like Renaissance Technologies has done. Yeah. So what I would say is just a basic understanding of hardware. Okay, it's not hard to build a computer. And I teach you how to do this in my cryptocurrency course and a more updated version of it in my MBA degree program. Anybody can do it. It's not hard to build a cryptocurrency computer. And I think that most of your processing power is going to be on Amazon Web Services anyway, right? It's just a more efficient, cheaper way to do it. But what you can do if you want to is you can go to PC Part Picker. Google will fix it for me. PC Part Picker. Here it is here. Yeah. You can build your own computers here. And there's a lot of build guides as well, right? So it's a lot cheaper for you. You select your processor and all that stuff. Put it in a basket, and it will tell you which ones are compatible, which pieces are compatible with each other, right here. It'll say yes, compatible, or no. Select the right motherboard, CPU, storage, etc. Right, so you can do that here. But I would really host a lot of this stuff directly on Amazon Web Services instead, right? And so that's the hardware side. It's not that hard. And then what you can do is you can do I think it's called Redshift data warehouse. Data, if I could spell. I made 2 typos there, man. Warehouse. Here we go. Redshift? I think they have one here called Redshift. Yeah. But you can actually get a data warehouse here directly. Here it is here. Yeah, it is Redshift here. Yeah. Cool. It's one of the many apps that run on Amazon Web Services. Yeah. And in terms of other software programs, I recommend learning how to code Python. Okay. So there's plenty of places you can learn Python. And it's not that hard. And anybody can do it, even if you don't have any background at all in programming. It's a lot of fun as well. And so there's this guy named Jose Portilla, who is amazing. Check out his courses. Or Kirill, he's great. He's awesome. He's a good guy. I met him. He's from Russia, but lives in Australia. Yeah. Melbourne. Yeah. So that's what I recommend. And of course, you need to understand the finance side as well. And I'll teach you that stuff in my courses. Let me try to. There we go. All right. Adonis wrote, hey, Chris, I completed your fantastic MBA program. Congratulations. And thank you. You wrote, it was such an excellent investment. Thank you. Do you have any plans for a PhD program in the near future? If yes, please count me in. Thank you. Yeah. The only PhD course, PhD stands for Pizza Hut Delivery. No? Sorry. Or plumbing, heating, and dishwashing. Yeah, I don't right now. Yeah, thank you. God bless you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for my awful dad humor. But what I will be doing as an added benefit, you'll never have to buy anything from me ever again, is I'll be adding tons of new stuff to it, 30 or 40 hours every year. Right now it's over 300 hours, but it will be 1,000 hours at some point. So I'm going to add brand new topics every year. This year I'm adding options. Much more comprehensive version of the options stuff than in the options course. I'm going to be adding more stuff on real estate. If in a couple of years a new social media app comes out that is really important for your business, I'll add that as well. If I plan to add programming stuff as well to it as well. I used to be a coder. I was a software architect years ago. Yeah. So you'll never need to purchase a PhD program from me. I'm not going to upsell. You just get everything for free. And what I'll do is I'll send out emails to everybody letting you know when I add new content as electives to the program and how to access it. And so you'll be able to access the options stuff in class number 89. Okay, but I'll send an email to everybody that's purchased the program to know how to access it for free, of course. Thank you, and congratulations for finishing it. Okay. Next question. Abhishek is saying, what do you think about investing in India? I am a huge bull on India. I love India. It's the world's biggest democracy. And as China is now becoming more communist for the first time in my life, I think that we just all double down on investing in India instead. Yeah. I'm a huge, huge fan of India. Yeah. And I've been investing in India for years. Yeah. Satyam, Wipro, Crompton and Greaves, engineering services companies there as well. All the Tatas you can think of, Motors, etc., Tata Motor, etc. Yeah. So I've done a ton of work there, and even venture capital perspective. There's a guy named Mohit Aaron who founded a company called Cohesity. Sequoia led the A, we led the B. I used to be on this board until I decided to teach full time. But in Hyderabad, he's got a massive office there for Cohesity. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Yeah, and the IITs, the 5 IITs, they kick the ass of MIT here, man, I tell you. Okay. And then Ariuna said, hey, Chris, what do you think about investments in Dubai? So I've raised millions of dollars from Dubai into my companies and stuff. And I get approached every now and then they want to invest in my companies. I'll never do it here because I want this to be owned by me only and all that stuff. But I would never invest in a company that's based in Dubai. And here's why. In Dubai, right? And look, I love Dubai. It's like Vegas on steroids. It's cool. I've been there plenty of times. In Dubai, to be a national there is 15% of the population. And if you start a company and you're not a national there, right? You're an expat. If you start a company in Dubai and you fail, you get kicked out of the country. Which basically means, why should I take a risk? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Unless you're a national, then yeah. I know it's kind of a weird thing for me to say. Maybe I'd have to look at the business model in more detail first. I can't just be black or white and say never. Yeah, because great managers are in every country. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I take that back, sort of. All right. Tanzil said, hey, Chris, I'm going to Montreal or Newfoundland on a study visa as a computer science student this spring from Pakistan. Any advice for me? Yeah, I think I answered that earlier. You can rewind and see my answer to it. I basically mentioned network like crazy, meet people also from Pakistan, that have something in common with you. Maybe they went to the same school as you, or they're from Lahore or Karachi or the same town as you, and network that way. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and Sharif wrote, Battlefield 2042, you and me, Chris. Yeah. I've never gotten into Battlefield, except I use the engine for when I played Star Wars Battlefield, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And Call of Duty, I'm getting kind of sick of Call of Duty. I don't know why, man. It seems like the same thing over and over and over again. Although I do like the Modern Warfare, the original from 2009. All right. And then David Yerman wrote, where is the best place to check out interest rates every morning? And is a subscription to the Financial Times worth it? I have Barron's right now. How should I start my business day? I love Battlefield PS4 as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, a couple questions there. Yeah. So the first thing is, how do you check interest rates? You go directly to the source, and I'll show you how to do that. So what you do is you go to the United States government website, treasury.gov. And if you're in England or United Kingdom or Europe, you can do a search on LIBOR. LIBOR stands for London Interbank Offer Rate. And then what you do is you go here to data, and you can check out daily treasury yield curve rates. Okay, so as of and this is, I guess, from yesterday, the 1 month yield, okay, on treasuries is 0.05%. and the 30-year is 1.95%. So the one with the yield starting to creep up. Yeah. And this is how the yield curve is made. I can talk about yield curves if you want me to. In terms of a subscription to the FT, worth it? Don't ever do it, man. You can get it for free. I'll show you how. Yeah. Okay. This is why I don't take sponsors. So watch this. Anything I want to read here, right? And this doesn't work with all newspapers, but it does with the FT. So let's say I wanted to read this article, China to sell oil from state reserves in a bid to contain prices. If I click it, they're going to be like, no, give me your money first. I'm like, no, I'm not going to give you my money. So here's what you do, okay? You copy this, okay? Copy. Right, not copy the link. You copy the text, okay? Then you go here and you paste and search. Then you click here. And now you can read it for free. So don't waste your money, please. Now, why does this work? Well, it works because if it didn't work, then from a search engine optimization perspective, the FT would not be indexed in Google. Okay. Now their paywall is kind of messed up. This doesn't work with the journal and all publications. But as of now, and since 1999, I've been doing this. Don't pay for the FT. Do what I showed you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So no, don't pay for the FT. In terms of your other questions, let me see what they were again here. I think that's it. Yeah. Cool. Okay. All right. Next up, and by the way, in the morning when you're brushing your teeth, getting ready and stuff, the best way to maximize your time is to listen to the daily podcast, the Wall Street Journal. So here's what I do as I'm brushing my teeth in the morning. Alexa, what's the Wall Street Journal news today?
From the Wall Street Journal. Escape QuickBooks.
Alexa, stop. So it goes, that's a commercial first for QuickBooks from NetSuite, Oracle. But they give you a 3 or 4 minute overview of all the stories in the New York Times, or pardon me, in the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. All right. And then next, and I've got to wrap this up in a couple minutes. I apologize, as I've got MBA students only office hour. Mark, how are you? Mark is one of my amazing MBA students. He goes by the moniker Satones. Mark is from Detroit, and he is so long-term focused, dude, that he is working on a company that's going to look into mining rare minerals from asteroids. And I think it's amazing. I love it because it reminds me of Elon Musk, who's talking about colonizing Mars. And it reminds me of Frank Herbert's book, Dune, which they're making a new movie for, which should come out any day now. The spice trade, yeah. So Mark wrote here, bro, I just want to give you a supreme gratitude. We are so fortunate to have you teach. There is no one at the level that what you do. Thank you, buddy. And thank you for all the emojis. I love you, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, you're going to love the new stuff I put in the options part of the program as well. I know we talked about futures last time. I added Iron Condor and a bunch of stuff. I'll show you later as well. The best way to learn something is to teach it, right? So I'm learning a lot. Yeah, and when I used to work at Citadel Big Hedge Fund, my boss would tell me, Chris, if you can't explain it, you don't understand it. Yeah. So I think I understand this stuff now a little bit. Thank you. Great to see you, brother. Okay, and Divyang wrote, gratitude. I wish I could send some chocolates. Thank you. I'm doing software consultancy and multiple IT projects, but that's what's hindering me from building an actual product. How do I go about it? Yeah. So what I would do is I would, first of all, write a business plan, right? Now, if there are certain technology things that you need to learn first, you can go online and take, online courses to do this sort of thing. I showed you earlier how to sign up for a Python course, and what I recommend is do a search on Angela Yu and Udemy. Take her courses. She's the best. She's awesome. I met her in Berlin a couple of years ago. She's dope. We did a Zoom call not too long ago as well. Nobody explains things like she does. She's amazing. She used to be a doctor, but now she teaches. She's fun. Okay. And then next up, Manas wrote, I don't see Facebook in the next 10 years. I don't know why. Call me crazy, but I believe Facebook is going to be no more than the next decade. Its organic reach is dying now. and it's freaking people out. It's now a greedy company. Yeah, I do think that Facebook, as it exists today, will be different in 10 years. I think it'll be broken up into a handful of companies. They're so damn powerful. And as I mentioned earlier, every month, 40% of people on this planet use at least one Facebook app. It's going to be broken up. And what they did with WhatsApp is shameful as well, from a spying on us privacy perspective. And the EU is our best friend. The EU fined them close to $300 million for what they did, the breach of privacy. Yeah. And the EU is privacy's best friend globally because the EU keeps a lot of American companies in check when it comes to privacy. Yeah. All right. And Lionel wrote, thanks, you're most welcome. Okay, and then Justin wrote, thank you, Chris. I agree that Apple and Google are ethical companies. Yeah. And I'm not a fan of Facebook, too. They're also too aggressive and ambitious, like their Libra plan, to try to manipulate people's lives and thoughts. Yeah. And every time I walk into Best Buy and I see these Facebook video products where you can get Facebook video cameras in your house, I'm like, oh, why? Scary. Yeah. Oh my God, Eileen, how are you? Eileen Deo Gracias. So Eileen graduated from my MBA program last year. I actually met with her in person in Atlanta a couple months ago. It was great to see her. She has the coolest name ever. Get this. Her last name, Deo Gracias, is Spanish for thank God. I love it. She's originally from the Philippines. Yeah. So, and her husband has a wonderful sense of humor as well. That firecracker video you share with me with your husband was hysterical. Very nice. Yeah. And she's a successful parent because her kids are both in universities. They left the house as well. Yeah. I actually hope my kids never leave. I'll miss them. My kids just went back they're a bit older now. They went back to school. The COVID restriction is lifted here. And it's a quiet house. I miss them. And the cat loves me now because it's bored, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But Eileen wrote, I just finished giving a lecture virtually for OT students at SJSU. Very cool. San Jose State University, right? And I ended my presentation with a Steve Jobs video. Excellent. You wrote, they loved it. Thank you. I've upped my presentation skills. Fantastic. Excellent. It's amazing. I love it. And I licensed that video because it's on YouTube, from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. I have it written over here. Yeah, and that's how I end all of my weekly calls. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. And by the way, and then you wrote, thanks to the Haroun MBA program. Thank you. No. It's all you, please. But whenever you give a speech, it's if you start with a quote and end with a quote, it just works out great because it inspires people. And if you're ever stuck, right, and you don't know what to say next, right, your crutch can always be a quote from somebody. Like Maya Angelou once said, people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. Yeah. Cool. Great to see you. All right. And then Divyang wrote a 200-word pitch for your startup, I guess. Yeah. And the elevator pitch is crucial. You can have a 30-second pitch, a 5-minute pitch, a 30-minute pitch. The 30-second one is the most important one by far. The 5-minute might be on the phone. The 30-minute might be in person. Right? Yeah. All right. So your elevator pitch is, I have a product for educators like yourself. Software as a service for building community of online campuses and all the add-on tools like marketing and sales. Would you use it? Any tool you're using now. Yeah. So what I use right now to run my business, I'll tell you all the software tools I use. Right? And they're free to use, except they're freemium based. You get a free version, and you could pay for a premium version. So I use Teachable.com right now to host my courses, and anybody can do it for free. I pay them though because I use some more advanced features. So you can go to Teachable.com and create online courses for free. Okay, so that's what I use. For social media, in order to disseminate all my social media posts to various platforms at different times of the day, I use Hootsuite.com. It's free, but there's a premium version you can use as well. In terms of managing all the emails I have, from a gazillion emails from students and all that stuff, my CRM system, I use something called ActiveCampaign, which I pay for. Okay, and that's like MailChimp on steroids. That means I have to wrap this up. That's my alarm. From what movie? Yeah, y'all know what it is. Okay, guys. Okay, and I know there's a ton more questions. I'm so sorry I won't be able to get to it. I got to do my MBA student office hours now. But if this was helpful, please like. It'll help us. My marketing team asks me to say that every now and then. Also, I'd love to see all of you join me tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow, if you're ever curious what it's like to be in the Haroun MBA program, I'm offering a free class tomorrow. And it's tomorrow, September 10th at 11 a.m. My time, Pacific time. And you can click here to sign up, okay? And there's going to be a very special offer as well, and a free course that I'm going to give away. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be fun, I promise you. I hope it's going to be fun, yeah. So check it out. Again, go to harounventures.com to sign up. I want to thank you for your time. This has been fun, our 152nd weekly webcast. I hope to see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. On that weekly call. It'll be fun. Or on that special event. It should be fun. If not, God bless you. If you subscribe to my vlog, I'll see you every day at 9 a.m. when my vlogs drop. If not, God bless you. Have a wonderful, happy, healthy weekend. And I'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday at 8 a.m. If there's more questions here, copy your questions and ask me next Thursday. Thank you. God bless y'all. And have a wonderful and blessed week. And as I always do, I end it with a Steve Jobs video I licensed. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.